Welcome to the Fantasy Fangirls podcast, where two sisters dive deep into beloved fantasy lore, characters, themes, theories, and more.
I'm Lexi, older sister and fantasy lore nerd.
And I'm Nicole, younger sister and romantic at heart.
And today is episode 6 as we deep dive Glow of the Everflame by Penn Cole, covering chapters 38 through 43. While this is our second to last episode of this book, we always do our due diligence with spoiler warnings. So, spoilers for all 3 released books in the Kindred's Curse saga that includes Spark, Glow, and Heat of the Everflame.
So, if you don't know why the challenging is laden with Easter eggs, then please go finish the series. We will be here when you're done.
Next, we at Fantasy Fangirls are adults who say adult things about adult books. In other words, friends, this podcast is rated R.
Henry is out. Luther is in, and there was much rejoicing. You've seen me at my feral state, but that's when they weren't together. So please, be mindful of those little listening ears.
Something different today is that we also want to let you know about a community project we're launching this Thursday, July 17th. It's called Positivity Pages, and it's a 10-day challenge to spread kindness, support one another, and express our gratitude and love for books. Join in the fun with this community on our website or link in the show notes. We really hope that you'll join us for it.
Plus, also on July 17th, we're dropping a bonus episode with guest Jess of The Lost Books of Jess, where we celebrate this bookish space and embrace positivity.
And then, as always, we are so excited to see you at upcoming live events. We will be featured guests at Enchanticon in St. Louis, Missouri, August 15th through 17th. My hoop skirt just came in. I'm so excited.
I did too, yes. We'll also be at the Everflame Ball along with Penn Cole for the first ever Kindred's Curse Saga Ball on August 30th in Castle Rock, Colorado. We all just heard the news that every attendee will get an Arc of Burn when the arcs are released. We are so excited. I am still screaming. We'll also be back at the Dragon Gauntlet in Boyne City, Michigan, September 12th through 13th.
Then Romantasy BookCon in Orlando, Florida, October 23rd through 25th, where we are interviewing Rebecca Yarros again at Disney World.
Check out our website or the links below for more information to all of these events and some discount codes for some of them as well.
Last thing before we jump into this Glow of the Everflame episode 6. If you love Fantasy Fangirls and want more events, more content, more community, and so much more, please check out Fantasy Fan Club.
We have 3 tiers that you can join. The Descended, which includes access to our Boppin' Discord, live Q&As from Lexi and I, a book club where we often have authors join us, like this month is Rachel Schneider of Metal Slinger. We're so excited. Community events, promo codes for live events, plus exclusive designs and 20% off all merch. Yes, we have a huge merch drop this week. That is for $6 a month. Or you can join the Royal Family, which includes everything from the Descended level. Plus, early access to ad-free episodes, our full episode outlines, and special voting privileges. That is for $10 a month. And last but not least, we have the Crown's Council, which includes everything from the previous 2 tiers, plus more behind-the-scenes content, a welcome gift, giveaways, a private Discord channel, and your name shouted out on the podcast. That is for $25 a month.
Join the party at fantasyfangirls.com/fan club. The link is also in the show notes. And thank you so much for supporting us as we've turned this podcast into a dream come true. It's all because of you.
And now it is time to make Rhon Ghislaine go poof.
To start off every episode, Nicole does us the honor of summarizing this stretch of chapters. So gather round as we consult with our royal advisors to discuss what happens in chapters 38 through 43 of Glow of the Everflame.
Chapter 38. It is the day before the challenging, and all through the palace, every creature is stirring, even Diem's personal glam squad. Not my best. Eleanor, Lily, and Taryn decide that today, Diem's possible last day breathing, she needs to go full queen glam. We're talking all the jewels, a diamond sash, the most elaborate dress she owns, and a cape that needs its own zip code. After being all dolled up like she's playing a game of Pretty Princess, it's off to the dungeons for the last magic training session before the challenging. But there's a hunk of a man standing here already. Before training starts, Diem returns the sword of Courbois to Luther. They banter, they flirt. There's so much longing I nearly drown in it, especially when Luther promises not to marry Ileana if Diem can prove she can shield herself. Motivation level, maximum. And it worked! Shocking. Like the good girl she is, Diem is finally able to conjure up a magical shield. Chapter 39. Back in Mortal City, Moira gives Diem the vote of confidence she needs by sobbing hysterically into Diem's arms. After a promise to take care of Teller from Moira, it's off to sightsee around Mortal City, giving Taryn and Alix the not-so-glamorous truth about living in Mortal City. But while she's opening their eyes, Diem also shines a light on the bright spots too, showing them every part of the realm that she's desperate to protect. When the tour comes to an end, it's time for one final errand, saying goodbye to Henry. Oh, I can only hope. There's only one teeny weeny problem. Homeboy's not home. He left to deliver a package to Arboros. Hey, isn't that the same place Lana's at right now? Chapter 40. The day of the challenging has arrived, and Diem is having the argument of a lifetime with Sarai, who does not appreciate being told to sit and stay like a dog. Dressed like Catwoman, Diem is escorted through the halls of the palace and to her send-off parade. Diem looks out over the other horses saddling up to take her to the arena, and who does she see? Aemon, riding a white horse that she thought was Luther's. Plot twist! Luther wasn't the descended man in Henry's villain origin story. Chapter 41. After a plummet into a can't think, can't breathe, hands trembling state of overwhelming panic long horse ride, it's finally time for the challenging. Before heading to her doom, Diem takes a moment in the royal box where Luther spills some piping hot tea. Teller kissed Lily. Ooh! Not needing Diem to ruin this trust with his little sister, Luther distracts Diem with a gift, a new medallion of the Corbois crest on one side and a beautifully scripted bee pierced by a pair of crossed twin daggers on the other side. But that's not the only gift he gives her in front of everyone. We know Diem loves exhibitionism. Luther kisses Diem and I melt. But the time for kissing is over. Remus calls for anyone who wants to make a challenge to speak now or forever hold their peace. And boy, oh boy, do they speak. Not one, not two, not even 20 houses raise a challenge against Diem. And it's humiliating. But right when Diem thinks it couldn't possibly get any worse, Luther stands up, raising a challenge for House Corbois. But hey, Remus doesn't have magic now, so kind of a win. Chapter 42. Chaos is everywhere. Everyone is screaming, crying, throwing up. Oh wait, that's just me. The Corbois might be shocked, but the crowd is loving it like this is an episode of reality TV. Not only did Luther just kiss Diem and then challenge her, no, he is the strongest, which means Diem is going to have to fight him, right? Wrong. Diem makes one last deal with Remus. She'll keep his little no magic secret if he lets her pick who she bites. And like the little vigilante she is, Diem chooses Rhon Ghislaine as her challenger. Stepping into a weepy goodbye corner, aka the little tent, Diem is cut off from her impending doom by Luther entering. His sword is out, and he pins her to the tent, grabbing her neck. Diem is not having it. I volunteer in her place. But after a moment, Diem realizes that Luther wasn't really going to challenge her at all. He was going to sacrifice himself. And at this realization, Diem and Luther share what very well could be their last kiss. And in doing so, she officially closes the door on Henry forever. Sadly, they don't have enough time to strip naked and fornicate right here on the 10th floor. So, making her way into the arena, it's time for the challenging to begin. Chapter 43. Rhon starts off strong, throwing everything he's got at Diem. And not really knowing how to do anything but shield, Diem makes a run for cover. Using pebbles and crude jokes about his pickle wiener, Diem baits him into wasting magic. And with one final distraction, she's able to sneak up behind him and blow sand into his eyes, ultimately causing him to drop his shield completely. This is her chance. She's got an open slot. She thrusts her hand out and nothing. Rhon clocks that something must be wrong. Diem's not attacking. She has no magic. Rushing for cover, Diem needs to work on her dexterity saving throws because she slips, hitting her head, and everything goes black. I'm not laughing. Only to find herself in a familiar vision. But something is different. A new figure is here. There's a beautiful man in the corner. Diem, that's your father. The mysterious figure wants Diem to join him in taking out all the descended, ending their rule forever. She denies him, wanting to rule for all of her people, mortal and descendant alike, and her godhood agrees. Diem has officially unlocked her powers. In a flash of light, Diem is back in the arena. She's got magic this time, though, and she's ready to show it off. Not liking where this is going, Rhon throws everything he has at Diem, but she's absorbing his magic like she's sunbathing for some vitamin D. When Rhon is as dry as his lovers are around him, Diem binds him and makes him plead for mercy, and Diem gives it to him, giving him a second chance at life that Rhon instantly throws away when he attacks Diem with a blade. Not thinking, Diem poofs him away into a cloud of ash and dust. And in her last show of power, Diem overpowers every last descendant in the arena. At the same time, mind you, she forces each house to kneel before their queen.
All right, friends, we are so excited for today's episode. So it is time to reach for our foraging magic and unravel key insights, character analysis, lore, foreshadowing theories, and oh, so much more. We have a battle episode, everybody. As always, though, let's kick it off with a timestamp. Because, wow, time has flown since the beginning of last episode. We are 1 day away from the challenging, which means it's been 35 days since King Ulthar died and Diem received the crown, 30 days since the funeral and cousin dinner party, 29 days since the Ascension Ball and the official beginning of the period of challenging, 28 days since Andre's murder, and 24 days since the disastrous Hanover house reception.
And it's been 1 day since Diem went to her family home and Teller told her to fight.
The challenging is tomorrow, and it's Diem's last chance to master her magic, or at least make any magic happen, because she still has not been able to successfully conjure anything of her power. And with the clock almost run out, our crew is a little lot nervous for our girl. So for today's magic lesson, we have to practice shielding. Because if Diem can't shield, she will be dead in minutes from her opponent's attack. While shielding itself doesn't solve their biggest problem of Diem needing to wield magic to kill, at least a shield will be able to buy her time to plan. Okay, I'm just gonna say it. Why are we waiting until the very last day to learn how to shield? Yes, offensive magic is their best bet since it's necessary for Diem to win, and she's powerful enough that if she can do that, she automatically wins. But shielding still feels a little too important, and maybe we should have practiced this earlier.
This tells you everything you need about us and how we think about these things, because meanwhile, I didn't blink an eye at this order of operations. I'm like, yeah, offensive magic. Let's fucking go.
Anyway, you know what else we're doing on the Queen's last day before the challenging? Dressing the part, which turns out to be very elaborate and impractical. Go figure for being a queen. Complete with dripping in jewelry and a cape with a train half the length of the room. Hey, that was like my wedding dress. As much as Diem may think this is ridiculous, Eleanor is insistent that if she wants to feel like the queen she is, she needs to embrace and look the part. It is sweet how this is Eleanor's way of trying to help Diem get into the right mindset that she owns this role, challenging or no tomorrow. As Victor Melling from Miss Congeniality would say, wear the crown, be the crown, you are the crown. Today is the day to celebrate and bask in being the queen, showing herself and anyone who sees her decked out in this extravagance that she's already the crown of Lumnos. And while I'm not sure how much the outfit contributes, I love how as Diem walks through the palace with her entourage, she does feel hopeful. This impractical attire might seem impossible for training, but Elix leans into this challenge. Sure, Diem can't really move much in it, but she doesn't need to move when she's just using magic, aka no physical fighting today. I love how this is Elix's mindset for the outfit in comparison to Eleanor's. It shows their personalities and roles in Diem's circles so clearly.
I love how practical Elix is. This is why I love her so much. She's awesome.
Oh, me too.
Arriving in the dungeons, it appears that someone is already here. Leaning against the center pillar casually stands Luthor Corbois. When I tell you I have missed this man after last episode where he barely was in it, oh my God, I'm about to just milk every single moment we have with him. The formality of Luthor's interaction with Diem jolts her and makes her sad for all that's happened between the two of them in the last 20 plus days. To be fair, the last time he saw her, she was livid at him. Yes, she was angry at the world, and yet so much of that anger she took out on Luthor. But with this formal greeting, Diem decides to wave the white flag in a version of a jeweled sword. She holds out the sword of Courbois that he left at her father's gravesite, and while he's hesitant to take it, he does relent. The sword is not just her giving him back a piece of his jewelry, though. It's her saying, I trust you. And after saying that he broke his promise to her to keep her family safe, that trust means everything to him. But now they have one more part of this peace offering, though, a vow to finally not withhold secrets anymore from each other. Finally! Have I said that enough? But
I don't know. I'm rereading Heat right now. It's a little rough. Not gonna lie, it's a little rough.
To be fair, she was captured. They had more important things to talk about. We'll get to that when it comes, though. But this is not a come clean right now with everything vow. Instead, with their very eager audience watching this whole interaction go down, because yes, they are unabashedly staring at these two kiss and make up, except minus the kissing yet. Luther finally tells her that after the challenging, he will tell her everything. A promise, of course, our boy does keep. And Diem too, because remember, she's withholding info about working with the Guardians. It takes her a minute to fulfill this promise, but again, she was captured. They had more important things to talk about. I love when Luther's like, girl, I already know all these secrets. It's just delicious. Anyway, with Diem and Luther finally back in each other's good graces, that can only mean one thing. Tension time is back, baby! Previously, in Diem and Luther's flirting, she always felt like it was dangerous, like she was standing on this edge of a cliff playing chicken to see if she'd jump off it. But now, with Luther promising her answers, her feeling more like herself again, she's ready to fight. And let's be real, Henry showing his true values and colors at the docks didn't exactly not impact this decision as well. She is now no longer afraid to play this flirting game. She may not be ready to jump off the cliff into the great unknown that is Luther Courbois yet, but I will take this as massive progress.
With the tension between these two behind them, we learn a little of what came of Luther's meetings with the other houses. He was absent last night as he took matters into his own hands to bargain for Diem not to be challenged. He made every promise he can keep and offered everything that's his to give. Hopefully, it will be enough to keep the other houses from challenging Diem. But when Luther says he'll promise whatever is his to give, there's a loaded meaning behind that. Because he did get House Hanover, Diem's biggest threat, to agree not to come after Diem if and only if Luther makes a bonded bargain to marry Ileana. Oh no! Damn you, Ileana! Just take a hint already, my goodness! So I do have to wonder, even if Luther did follow through with this, I think that House Hanover would have sought out a loophole, like to have a different house go after Diem to make way for Luther to be king, and therefore Ileana will still end up his queen consort. Except, wait, record scratch! Luther can't marry Ileana. He doesn't love her. She doesn't understand him. He would be miserable for the rest of his very long life, all because of Diem, and she can't bear the thought. Never mind the fact that Diem wants Luther all to herself, and this would just break her heart. But he would rather marry someone who sucks, and not in the good way of sucking, than watch Diem die. He just can't be sure she'll win if she can't use her powers, and he is desperate and determined to help however he can, especially to prove his devotion to her reign and life in the aftermath of breaking his promise to protect her father. Once again, here we have more pressure on Diem needing to be able to wield magic in case she is challenged. But hey, sometimes that can work to her advantage when she's feeling stubborn enough. So Diem and Luther strike up their own deal. If she can conjure a shield during this lesson today, he will reject the bonded bargain to marry Ileana. Diem has to prove she can survive at least a few minutes in the challenging here first to put his mind at ease. Or like the tiniest bit at ease. I love how Luther is compromising with Diem here. I think he really appreciates how she is willing to fight for him not to marry Ileana, yet at the same time, he is just so scared for her and feels helpless in every other way. Only Diem can figure out how to draw upon her magic. It's entirely up to her to make this happen, and he and everyone else here can only do so much.
Yeah. Luther tells her that today's lesson is in shielding. And oh, what a lesson it is.
You might be wondering, how does a descendant use their magic to create a shield around themselves? Well, welcome to today's magic lesson. It's in shielding. When it comes to shielding, you rely on the raw magic itself to pull it around you in its rawest form. You draw it out and simply allow it to exist outside of your body, no shaping it into something else. So how do you draw it out? Your magic is at its strongest in your chest, so you envision it gathering there first. Then there's a tingling sensation and power buzzes, leading your magic to come out. That's when you imagine it expanding beyond yourself so it can surround you completely. A shield creates a glittering dome around you, almost invisible except for the translucent swirls. Think of yourself like in a gigantic bubble, right? This shield protects you from other magic, but you have to consciously make sure you're also shielding against actual objects like pebbles, for instance, to secure that additional defense. However, the thing about shielding is that it drains your magic much faster than conjuring weapons and using your power offensively. And it drains even faster if you're shielding against anything besides magic, those actual objects, right?
Diem begs her godhood to do something, anything. But other than a little tingling stir, no shield comes about. So she reaches for Luther, asking him to help her bring out her magic, just like he did the day of the funeral. But only one problem. He didn't do anything then. That was all her. He just gave it a little nudge. And he really wants to see her create this for herself. But Diem is Diem. So announcing to the whole room that if he doesn't help her, he's basically signing his life away to marry Ileana. Well, I love how everyone's like, you bastard. Like, I love it. He relents. Devious indeed, your majesty. But, oh my god, I'm so happy. Luther Corbois can be devious too. Luther takes Diem's wrist with one hand, circling his thumb around her pulse, and asks, quote, "If I try to help you, are you going to fight me?" And then he leans in closer. "Or will you be a good girl for me again and obey?" The rate that I would have ordered everyone out of the dungeon would be staggering.
I am so happy for you right now with Luther back at the
miss
episode.
this so much. But Diem plays along, closing her eyes as Luther's hand touches her chest right above her heart, his palm enjoying the feeling of the swell of her breast, all while his thumb still taunts her damn wrist. Oh, and his face is basically at her neck. I'm not breathing! Now, there's a reason for this specific touchy-touchy. All magic is strongest at a descendant's heart, and all she has to do is picture the magic gathering at her heart and then surrounding her. Luther, you are brilliant, my guy. With these two touches, he's ensuring her mind, which was previously on the pressure, and white-knuckling her magic to do something. He's putting her at ease. He's distracting her. He's taking the pressure off, allowing her magic to just do the work. And work it does. Luther's palm slides up her chest to her throat, cupping her jaw, and he tells her to look. Surrounding them both, a shimmering dome has formed, all coming from Diem. All right, she has shielded once. It's time to get lunch, right? Lily's priorities are on food. Diem's are on Luther, ensuring that he will decline the Hanaver's bargain. And decline it, he will.
With it being Diem's last night before the challenging, she has some loose ends to tie up in Mortal City. And yes, it is something of a goodbye as she faces the very real possibility of dying tomorrow. While Diem is upholding her promise to tell her that she will fight tomorrow with everything she has, she's also being a realist. In Luther's bonus chapter that occurs after the challenging, and it's actually available on Penn's website, Diem will admit that she didn't think that she'd survive, despite trying to be confident so no one would notice. She feels her time ticking, and with it comes a lot of weight for tomorrow, and this is how she chooses to carry that weight to Mortal City. Despite feeling like she has to come alone, especially to break off the engagement with Henry Huzzah, Luther insisted on bringing a Lynx to guard her and use her illusionist magic if necessary, and Theron decided to come too. First stop, Moira's at the Healer Center. Diem's here to remind Moira about if the deliveries of herbs Diem had planted at the palace for the mortal healers, if they stop arriving, to contact Luther, and he will fix it. But let's be honest, more than anything, this is a possible goodbye with Moira and this place that has been Diem's second home for so many years. Moira certainly recognizes it as a goodbye despite clinging to hope with the way she is crying and just so terrified for Diem. The challenging is such a foreign concept to the mortals, who are purposefully restricted from knowing much about the descended ways and magic. And like Diem will note when she arrives in the arena, the mortals generally value life far more than the descended because it is more fleeting.
In the process of walking around Mortal City, Diem learns from her two companions that they've never really been here outside of escorting King Ulthar and Diem's family home. And while this does surprise Diem, it more than anything infuriates her to learn that the only time Corbois guards are put on Mortal City patrols is as punishment. Woof. She knows that she can either get angry at these two for something that was bred into them, or she can help change it. Change it how? With knowledge! With showing her wealthy and self-admittedly privileged friends how the mortals live, not through stories, but through their own eyes. There's a reason there's the phrase, quote, I need to see it to believe it. While her friends didn't not believe her previously, it is something else entirely to see it through their own eyes. And Diem knows this. So for the next 2 hours, she shows them every inch of Mortal City, to the buildings that lacked warmth or clean water with families crammed 10 to a room, to the grimy, never-clean streets, to the brothels, to the drug dens of Paradise Row where she treated patients, to the back dark alleys where mortals were forced to make impossible decisions. She showed them where women did not go alone after sunset, and even where she made makeshift graves over the years. This is a nice callback to last book, where Diem had to do that for the mortal woman and half-mortal child after Rhon Ghislaine killed them.
Well, and also in chapter 1 of Spark, when she did that for a boy that she unfortunately was not able to help.
Yep, I remember that. And while the darkness is definitely important to show to these two companions, she also shows them the things that brought her so much joy over the years. The schools, the library, the art studio that offered free classes, the market that offered an impressive array of foods and goods, the orphanage where the community comes together to donate whatever they can to Sphere and help it run. She shows them her life. But more importantly, she shows them what she's fighting to save and what she's fighting to change, even if it means costing her her life.
Over the past month, Diem has offered little glimpses into what mortal life is like to her new descended friends. But exactly what Nicole's saying, there's hearing about it, and then they're seeing it. We know that Taryn and Alix have good hearts and intentions, and yet they cared about the mortals in more of an arbitrary way versus a tangible way that they're now beginning to understand. Like Alix will say early in Heat of the Everflame, quote, because I never saw the mortals, it was easy for me to convince myself that they were doing fine, which makes this tour of Mortal City life-changing for Taryn and Alix, especially Alix as Vice General of the Royal Guard. Under her protection, bad conditions have been made worse by the Descended Guards, and this is really going to stick with her. As Alix will also say early on in Heat, what Diem shows her here in Mortal City will haunt her and make her feel ashamed, and also highlight how much needs improvement and change, and she's going to take action about it. But in the here and now, when Diem declares that this is her home and what she's fighting for a better life for the mortals, for these individuals who are real people, Taryn and Alix pledge their protection too, no matter what happens to Diem, or what the politics, or whatever comes their way with tomorrow's challenge. And the fact that they pledge to protect Mortal City, that Diem feels like she has genuinely gotten through to her descended friends what is needed and why for the mortals, she feels such a sense of relief. Her death, and especially her father's needless death, will not be for nothing. Anything to keep moving forward, anything to make this misery have a bigger purpose.
There's one more stop that Diem needs to make, though. Henry. Hooray! Diem knows she's going to do whatever she can tomorrow to fight for her life. But she also knows that if she does die, she needs to have this one last visit to have closure with her best friend. And more specifically, she knows that no matter what, their engagement, it isn't right. Whether it's because Henry clearly chose the Guardians over her when he ran away from her, or because Luther is now back in her life and she recognizes what it means that she no longer fears their flirting, or because she came back into her own and doesn't feel like she needs to cling to the past anymore, or hell, D, all of the above, I don't care. Diem is ready to close the door on them forever. Being a good human, Diem decides to break up with him in person rather than via text/note. Only one problem. Henry's not home. He's on a delivery to Arboros, aka he's off with the Guardians, ready to attack Coville.
All right, well, learning that Henry just left without even telling Diem, it is the official door closing permanently on Diem and Henry. She genuinely cannot believe he did not bother to at least be around when she faces possible death. Earlier today, Henry's father delivered a note from Henry to Diem at the palace. Luther handed it to Diem when they were in the dungeon, and here is what Henry's letter said, quote, D, good luck tomorrow. I'll see you soon. Remember, whatever it may look like, we are on the same side. H. So this letter may be confusing to Diem, but we have 2020 hindsight vision. So let's talk about this. Nicole, do you need a moment?
Just the fact that on the island when it blows up and he's like, whatever it looks like, we're on the same. You killed a crown, asshole. It's fine. It's fine.
And then we'll get to the part where taking the island was literally like plan C for them. We'll get to all of that later. Anyway, first and foremost, This letter does not hint at Henry being absent from the challenging or even the realm, just that he acknowledges Diem is about to face the challenging and he's wishing her luck. The bar is so low for him that I actually want to say, well done for at least saying good luck. That's how below it is. Diem can't even fathom Henry not being around for this monumental moment in her life, even if she has finally recognized that they should not be engaged or romantically involved. Huzzah! We finally got there! Oh my gosh, we can't say that enough here.
Okay, hold on. If the bar is that low for Henry, we got to acknowledge that the bar is that low for Diem as well.
But then there's the second part of this note, where Henry says that no matter what it looks like, they are on the same side. I'm going to breeze over the fact that this should have raised major alarm bells for Diem, knowing what the Guardians tried to do at the Ascension Ball when all of the important Descended were under one roof, and how Henry has said they want to prevent the challenging from happening in the first place. I would have seen this note and been like, oh shit, what are the Guardians going to do at the challenging? If I was Diem, obviously, we know that Henry has left for this Guardian mission for her coronation. So I will say this, the fact that the Guardians are still set on the mission means that the Guardians at least have a little faith in her succeeding the challenging, which is a bright side. Even though Vance has made it clear he isn't betting on it, Henry's first priority is the Guardians, as we know full well. So it's not a surprise for his character that he left for the Guardian mission. But he'll also later share that he figured she'd be fine since she's the best fighter he knows. Again, here is Henry thinking from a mortal's POV. Understandably so, he is a mortal. This was Diem's initial thoughts too when she learned about the challenging at the beginning of this book. Because yes, she is a skilled fighter, except when it comes to magic, which is what the challenging is all about. A mortal like Henry can't comprehend that danger and real difference.
Also think part of him believes that since she's the queen, she has the most powerful magic of anyone, she would be fine. Of all the things that I majorly blame Henry for in this section of the episode, which I'm so happy this is the only Henry section and we're going to Luther after this. My God, my blood needs to stop boiling. I don't entirely blame him for his lack of knowledge here. Again, that does not mean I don't blame him for the choices that he makes with this lack of knowledge. But we know that Descendants specifically don't want the mortals to know how their magic works. So this might also just be Henry not knowing that there's a training to access magic. It also might be him not knowing that there's a magic-only rule in the challenging to begin with. Like, he has not ever been alive during a challenging. Many people haven't. So, again, I don't entirely blame him for not understanding how the challenging works. I do blame him for what he does with that lack of understanding.
No matter how scared Diem has expressed she is, he sees her as this powerful queen and a skilled fighter, so what's the problem?
Henry's father, because that's the only guy who's home, gives Henry yet another excuse, saying that it's not Henry's fault that he fled the realm when his fiancée is about to possibly die. After losing his mother the way that he did, Henry has never been good with goodbyes or deaths, but that doesn't mean he doesn't care. I don't have words, because then Mr. Albanon says, quote, "This has been a lot for him to handle." He tells the queen, who's about to fight for her life tomorrow, that it's been a lot for Henry to handle. I see where he's coming from, or I'll say even just trying to come from. But my God, L, Mr. Albanon. This is your second L in this book. You were on the pages 2 times in this entire book, and this is your second L. What does that say about you? Wow.
I will say this in Mr. Albanon's defense. He does not have all the extra context.
That's true.
But yes, you are absolutely correct. And I will also give a little gold star for Diem here too, because she does push back a little bit where she's like, it's been a lot for me to handle too. And Mr. Albanon, doesn't even know quite how to, he's like, oh shoot, I know I just said that and it came out wrong. He is just trying to be a parent and, defend his son and his choices, even though he does not understand them himself. And yet Diem's just his excuses are done. She's just over his excuses. She will end up giving some excuse to tell her, who's also like, are you kidding me at this point? So anyway, in this moment, I am so proud of Diem because for once, she defends herself against Henry.
Finally.
Henry knows what they're about to do with attacking Kirill. This is the biggest Guardians mission probably since the Blood War. They have been working toward it for years. And based on what we learned from Breck at the beginning of Heat, Henry also knows that Vance's plan is to kidnap Diem and hold her hostage. Vance and Cordelia of the Arboros Cell are planning this attack and the rest will just do as they're told. So yeah, the no matter what it looks like part of this letter is the bombing where Henry knows Diem will hopefully wind up. And the we're still on the same side is him trying to appeal to Diem that he knows she still believes in the Guardians' overall mission, even if she's a pawn of them taking back power. After all, as Henry will admit in Heat, they'll be careful to make sure she's not hurt.
You know who doesn't get an L this episode? Teller. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit to the challenging, when Teller will finally voice what we've all been wanting to shake Diem with. Looking out at the crowd, Teller asks his big sister, "Where's Henry? Where's that fiance of yours?" And it's not the "I expected him to be here. Where is he?" question. It's the "Wake up, big sis! He's not here" type of question. Diem will first do what her instincts and years of being best friends with Henry will tell her to do. She will defend him, like Lexi said earlier. I also feel a little bit of that is her being, that responsible big sister thing where it's like, I'm just going to pretend like everything's okay to my little sibling so that they don't worry and freak out. Yeah, I figured you know exactly what I'm talking about there.
I do know. I don't do that anymore because you're my business partner and you know instantly when something is wrong with me now. But yes.
Cut the bullshit, sis.
But I think that's also a little bit of what Diem is doing with Teller. But that was not entirely Teller's question. He's asking, where has Henry been since she took the crown? Where has he been since Andre died? Where has he been now that you're facing literal death in a matter of moments? Because if it were the other way around, there is no way that Diem would be kept away. If anyone she loved, or a lover especially, was going through what Diem has gone through this last month, Diem would be at their side every step of the way, no matter how dangerous it was for her to be around. She deserves someone who would do the same. He's right. Diem does deserve someone who would fight just as hard for her as she would for them. She deserves someone whose values align with hers, rather than putting something over their relationship just because he assumes she'll be fine. She deserves someone who will be right by her side when things get difficult. At the challenging, Diem will close the door on Henry forever and open one with her and Luther instead. And I think a big part of her giving herself this permission to do that is because of this moment with Teller and because of this moment with Henry's father. She's realizing that she needs to stop giving Henry excuses because the truth is she does deserve someone who will fight to the death for her. Teller, 2 for 2, my guy. The next day, it is the day of the challenging, and Diem's not the only one feeling the pressure of the day. Taryn and Eleanor are attempting to put her at ease with their normal, bubbly humor. There's a definite strain to each of their expressions. Lily is on the opposite end of the spectrum. She's just pacing with anxiety, which is so rough for Lily. But it also at least puts Teller's energy towards helping his crush rather than going down his own anxious rabbit hole for his older sister. And then there's Alix. She's completely the picture of self-control. Her vibe is no different than any other day. Alix is my girl crush so hard. I'm not going to lie, my bisexual heart is so happy right now. Because then there's also Luther. There's the unflappable prince to perfection. Diem sees it in his eyes, though, that restlessness. Even his aura seems to be curling protectively around Diem, trying to save her from the impending danger. Oh, I love this, because there's another piece that also could be possible to the puzzle here. He could be trying to protect her, like, all that, or his aura knows that he only has so much time left with her. Either way, either she dies in the challenging, or he will die in the challenging, because with how steadfast Luther is in being sure that Diem will win the challenging, it sure does seem like he has his own plans in mind. Either she gets no challenger and hooray, she's safe, or, as we will learn, she gets any one challenger, and then Luther himself will stand up and fight, air quotes, Diem. But in actuality, he will be doing all the magical work, and eventually he will end his own life, making it look like her doing. And when he learns about his father's bonded bargain with Diem about no Courbois standing up and challenging, he definitely comes to a full halt and everything that he's doing, and he's like stock still. He's like, what did you just say? I don't think that's when he got the idea to challenge Diem, but instead it was him realizing, oh, holy shit, if I do this, there will be another huge consequence.
See, I think he got the idea to challenge Diem himself, if necessary, at the end of chapter 38 when Diem mentioned the bonded bargain with his father. But it was only if it was going to be necessary. Like, that was going to be his absolute last, plan Z sort of thing.
But
Yeah.
you think that that's when he got the idea, is in this moment when he learns about the bonded bargain?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what? We're going to ask Penn because I
Okay.
want you to be wrong so badly.
Hello, ladies from the beautiful United Kingdom. I am so excited to be answering your phone a pen this week from London as I'm on tour here in the UK. Your question this week is, when did Luther decide on his plan to challenge Diem in the challenging? So I think that Luther was watching Diem very closely, and he saw that with every house that challenged her, and even the houses that weren't in the 20 houses challenging her, her confidence just took blow after blow after blow. And he saw that it really broke her down and brought out all of her worst self-doubts and fears. And in that moment, I think she had really given up and accepted defeat before the battle even started. And he saw that she was essentially giving up on herself. I think Luther truly believed that she could win if she really went into the fight trying her best, but he feared that maybe she had given up and wouldn't even try. And so he said, the only way to save her now is if I volunteer and I make sure that she wins. So I don't think it was a lack of confidence that he didn't think she could win, but really just a fear that she had given up. And so he was going to guarantee her victory. So I really think he made that decision in the moment right before he challenged her because he saw how broken and just devastated she was. Hope that helps.
Fine, I guess he can believe in his girl and have more faith in her fighting abilities. With it being time for us to go into the arena, we must pause for a quick fit watch. Diem is wearing a full body suit of smoke gray fighting leathers that have a depiction of Sarai embroidered across her back. The Gryvern's wings curve around her arms and the flames encircle her neck. Where is the fan art of this? Oh my god! While it might be intimidating as hell with the soft padding for Diem to dodge attacks with ease, Diem also can't help but notice how the skin tightness of it reveals every curve and dip of her body, which Leaks assures Diem is a type of defense in itself. We get a big revelation about Luther, though.
All book, Diem has been under the impression that Luther was the descendant that Henry saw his horse run over and kill a mortal boy. Because when Luther arrived to the royal cabin soon after Diem became the Luminous Crown, the horse he rode, clippity-clop, matched the exact description of the horse Henry described. For much of this book, that has been weighing on Diem about Luther. She eventually learned that he does his best to protect the mortals, but that fact about him was in the back of Diem's mind. Now, though, we finally learn the truth. Turns out that white horse Luther rode to the cabin a month ago was not Luther's horse. The horse actually belongs to Aemon. Dun, dun, dun. Luther explains that he was in such a big hurry the night that he left to find Diem, and his horse had thrown a shoe. So he took Aemon's horse instead, and suddenly all the pieces fall into place. Of course it was Aemon that didn't care at all that his horse ran over a mortal, killing him in cold blood. Of course it was Aemon who scolded the dying boy for getting mud on his saddle. Luther would never! Diem already trusts Luther and has given him her heart. But this cements that her evolved opinion of him is right. And he truly is the good person she's allowed herself to accept. And it also really sours her opinion on Aemon, who she used to defend, but there is some good in him, and at least he's forthcoming and honest, when it turns out that's not exactly true whatsoever. So this news is securing the fact that Aemon is terrible, and especially a dangerous appointment to keeper of the laws, what with his complete disregard for mortal life and lack of empathy.
Now, in Heat, we will get Aemon's side of the story when she finally is able to confront the Tool about the murder. Aemon, first of all, is shocked that she knows about the story, and then he's stumbling for words as he explains that it was a mistake. The boy was running in the streets, and he didn't see him, and especially he did not mean for him to get hurt. But when Diem tells him that he didn't even try to save the child, which is what she heard from Henry, Aemon says, quote, "You have no idea what it's like. The pressure my father puts on me to be perfect, to never show weaknesses. I'm not a bad person."
Why am I believing him? Why am I fully falling for this? The more I read, especially the scene, the more I think Aemon is going to have a redemption arc in some way or another. Right now in Glow,
He is not enforcing the progeny laws. This off-page, we learned this later in Heat of the Everflame, despite being High General and Keeper of the Laws. He wants to wait for Diem to be coronated before Aemon acts in any way. So right now, all signs on the page in Glow point to Aemon, you manipulating asshole. But I don't know. I believe that he could be good, and I also believe that he's going to stand up to his father. I think that in some way or another, that confrontation's going to happen, and I think Aemon and Taryn are going to bond over it and make up.
With all of House Courbois joining Diem on her march to the challenging arena, this is a symbolic show of support and a warning that a challenge against Diem is a challenge against the most powerful house in Lumnos. Oh, can't wait to get into that soon, because this right here is why Jean had to convince all the other houses to rise up as a united front so no one would be punished, because House Courbois really does have the might of Lumnos behind it, or so it is perceived to be. But while today is designed to embrace the Courbois name and rely on its support and reputation, Luther has a special gift for Diem. He gives her a golden medallion almost identical to the one Aemon gave Diem at the Ascension Ball. It is the phoenix crest of House Courbois, but with three notable differences. For one, the sapphire eyes of the phoenix have been replaced with dark gray diamonds. Because Diem is like no one else. She doesn't have blue eyes like the rest of the Lumnos descended. And her gray eyes mean everything to Luther. It's the woman he has been waiting for most of his life to serve. Gray eyes like the kindred. This medallion also has a little bit of Luther's light magic imbued with it. When Diem touches the ruby of the phoenix's heart, it glows. Oh, it's so cute. It's like a little piece of Luther that is always with Diem. And lastly, most importantly, on the other side of this medallion is an engraving of a scripted B, pierced by a pair of crossed twin daggers. Because Diem may claim House Courbois, she might have the might of this house behind her for the challenging, but she will always be a Bellator. She cherishes her roots and always upholds the values she was taught. And I just love how during the challenging, she will channel her father's advice and hold strong to being a Bellator until she gives in and recognizes that she is both descended and mortal, just like this medallion indicates. On one side, she is descended with magic and gray eyes, and on the other, she is a smart-minded Bellator who fights with daggers. Together, they make up Diem, who is her own phoenix rising from the ashes here.
With Luther having helped Diem with training, swore his undying loyalty to her in public multiple times, gone to each of the houses to negotiate them not to rise a challenge against her, given Diem a pendant to remind her that she's a fighter. You'd think he's done everything, right? Right? Wrong. Luther's got one more, well, really two more tricks up his sleeve. With the entirety of Lumnos watching, Luther leans down, his fingers tracing the column of her throat. He loves the throat, my guy, and he kisses her. This kiss may not be like their first, where they were a hair's breadth away from killing one another. This kiss here is gentle. It's adoring. Luther is cradling her like she's the most precious thing in the entirety of the world. This kiss feels like a cumulation of weeks of friendship, secrets shared, and the traumas they've endured together. It may be a smaller flame versus the inferno that was their last kiss, but as Diem puts it, this flame is stronger, it's steadier, and it's built to last and endure. My romantic heart is so happy. Oh, God. And there's a reason for this kiss. Luther, in one more chance to protect his queen, is using this opportunity to show everyone who will come for them if they choose to challenge Diem. He is showing them that this woman is precious to him, and if they take her away from him, oh, they will face the wrath that is Luther Courbois. Honestly, this is brilliant. And shouts to Taryn in the background, who is screaming, "Finally!" at the top of his lungs. But just as quickly as it began, the kiss ends with Remus pulling them apart. He's like, "Son, stop!" Sucking face. And Luther steps away and into the shadows of the royal box. It is time for the challenging to begin!
Diem is allowed to have one person accompany her in final prep for the challenging, and she, of course, picks Teller. But instead of giving her advice for the challenging, he points out that Diem just kissed Luther, and oh, by the way, Henry hasn't been around for weeks when Diem needed him most. And this little brother makes an excellent point. No matter how dangerous the situation is, Diem would be right by the side of her loved ones. Meanwhile, Henry couldn't be bothered to show, knowing this could very well be Diem's last day alive. While Henry might be missing, it is such a big moment to to see that hundreds, maybe even thousands of mortals show up to this challenging in support of Diem as they sit in the upper level of the arena. Moira, the other healers, friends of her parents, neighbors, old classmates, and so many of her patients, along with a sea of mortal strangers. By their mere presence here, I like to think it is signaling to Diem that she is not alone and that the mortals stand with her and support her and her efforts. Back when she was talking to Mr. Albanon, he said that it's gotten around to the mortals about what she has been doing in the little ways that she can and that they're all here to support her. And I just love that so much. We needed that little bit after everything that's happening with Vance and the Guardians and whatnot. To begin the challenging, Remus gives a speech noting that it's tradition for the crown to be judged by their peers. It is crazy to think how few people present have been alive long enough to have seen another challenging. Probably none whatsoever who have actually seen an actual challenging battle, considering the last 5 Courbois crowns haven't been challenged. Now, we don't know if that was consecutive, but I'm assuming that it hasn't happened in a really, really, really long time. The rules for the challenging are simple. Each of the houses will have an opportunity to raise a challenge against the crown. If more than one challenger steps forward, the crown must fight the strongest among them using only their magic until one is dead.
After a moment of silence where maybe, just maybe, there's hope that no one will challenge her, included with a little prayer up to Mommy Lumnos, asking if she believes that Diem is the queen they need right now, then please just give her a sign. Well, Diem, your wish is my command. We hear the first, "I will challenge her," come up from the crowd. The first to stand and raise a challenge is Rhon Ghislaine from the weakest house of the 20 houses. Yeah, that one house who never raises shit with anyone because they're the newest house in the Elite 20, and if they do, they could risk their position and yada, yada, yada. Yeah, they're the first to stand. This does bring up a question as to why Rhon is the first to stand. After all, they risk everything and gain basically nothing by making an enemy out of the royal house. But as we will discuss much more in depth momentarily, House Hanover is the one who's really pulling the strings behind this mass challenging. So the Ghislaine house is the first to stand because I, first of all, think that they're not trying to gain the favor of House Courbois. They're trying to gain the favor of House Hanover, which is why behind Ron's eyes, there's more than fury and battle readiness. There's this fear. Fear of being the first. Fear of, what if no one else stands up and I'm going to be thrown under the bus entirely? Fear of the House Courbois' wrath.
I was under the impression the fear was because he recognizes Diem from the run-in in Spark, when Rhon fought her in Mortal City as she tries to stop him from killing his half-mortal child and mother.
Interesting, because I figured he didn't recognize her.
Yeah, because they have several conversations about it.
Not until later, though, when she brings it up first, right?
True. Yes, but I guess when he has a little hint of fear in his eyes, she sees that he recognizes her too.
I didn't think he recognized her until she brought it up because that's how inconsequential she was in that moment.
Interesting. So you think that it's an unreliable narrator because she does go on to think oh, he just recognized me because she did walk away unscathed while she was able to get a few cuts in with him. So they have already battled in a way and he was not successful, and here he's oh shit, that's the queen who I've already faced and walked away as the one bleeding. Oh shit.
I could see it both ways, to be honest. I was under the impression it was him having the fear behind his eyes was more so because of what's happening behind the curtain, and it's because he's the first one to stand, and the 20 houses are having to fully trust each other that they're all going to stand, including Jean, which Jean doesn't stand until
because it's an order of the house's importance. The least important house goes first, and then it goes to House Hanover, which is one of the last ones. I know that's not completely right, but that was my understanding.
I figured that was the Hanover's order of ops in the background.
We know from the house receptions that 2 of the last ones are 2 of the first ones to do it here. So that's why I thought.
That makes sense. I don't know. So you know what? If he's the only one, though, to raise a challenge, Diem, who she believes in justice, she will happily fight hit. Ooh, we've got another. Second to rise is Roderick Burnham, the son of the twin mate spouses who had a marriage agreement with Remus about Roderick and Lily until Lily ultimately turned him down. Probably why he's second to stand. He's pissed that he had the opportunity to marry a powerful Courbois and then was snuffed out of the agreement. But those aren't the only two to raise a challenge. One after another, the next 16 houses all raise a challenge until finally Jean Hanover raises the final challenge, making that 19 houses challenging in total. This is all of the houses except Courbois. But the challenges don't stop there. The smaller houses outside of the Elite 20 all stand as well as the unhoused Descended. This is potentially hundreds of unnecessary challenges. Yes, unnecessary, because at this point, the unnamed houses, the smaller houses, and even the unhoused, there is no reason for them to raise a challenge. After one challenge has been made, they're already going to have a fight, full stop. We already have the most strongest person in the realm, Jean, outside of Luther. We know who is going to be facing a challenge. This is not to ensure she gets a challenge. This is a way to make sure everyone in the arena knows that the entirety of the Luminos Descended stand against Diem. This message is a neon sign that they reject their ruler. It's to crush Diem's spirits. It's a declaration of war, that this rejection of her does not end at the challenging. It's to utterly humiliate this new queen in front of her realm. It's the declaration that they do not agree with Diem's views of uniting the realm. After all, they have power right now to hold over the mortals, and they are willing to do anything to keep it. But they will call it for the good of the realm. How interesting.
And this realization that these Descended of Luminos reject her hope for reconciliation and common grounds, it breaks Diem. Even if she survives today, the realm she is the crown of has spoken. It's that feeling of one against the many, where it's like yelling that there is a better, more peaceful way into the void and trying your hardest to put your best foot forward and lead with good intention. But when those in power are focused on staying in power and ensuring they have superiority, it can undoubtedly feel hopeless. And we feel this for Diem, this gut punch of a reality check that goes against all of her morals, leading her to wonder if the only good she can accomplish is to accept death today. Oh, Diem. She even mouths, "I'm sorry," to Luther as she gives up, slumping her shoulders and bowing her head in preemptive defeat. Not just with this challenging, but for her reign, her goals to help the mortals and protect those she loves. Sorry to Luther for not being the queen he expected her to be.
Wow. Speaking of Luther, we get one more voice to declare that he will challenge the queen.
With Luther becoming a challenger, several things happen all at once. Poor Lily starts screaming in protest. The royal box is in an uproar. Never in Luminos history has there been a challenger from the crown's own house. Oh, and yeah, about that. Diem can feel a sharp pain caused by the magic of the bonded bargain breaking. Because, yep, Remus assured Diem no one from House Courbois would challenge her, and Luther Courbois did. Which means Remus just lost his magic. Pause! I promise we'll get back to this big Luther moment in a minute. Remus is the leader of House Courbois, at least until Diem is coronated, but in his own way, he will still be the manly head of the house along with Gareth. He already didn't have super powerful magic, but because of his royal status, brother of the crown, and his ambition, that hasn't seemed like a big issue. But no magic at all, that makes Remus literally powerless, and the only thing he has going for him is the protection of his family name, which there's a new Courbois queen who he openly doesn't get along with. No wonder he's about to be terrified that the Descended he's angered over the years will come after him. He feels naked without his magic. That is such a major blow for a Descended. I realize this doesn't come much into play in Heat. Diem does keep her word not to tell anyone that he loses his magic in exchange for letting her pick her challenger and a few other things. But knowing we'll spend more time in Luminos next book and learn more about the Courbois, I do think Remus not having his magic will play a bigger role. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say I don't think that will be his demise. Ooh, unless another house really does take him out, so that way our inner circle doesn't have to.
I think it's going to somehow or some way get out into the world, and maybe he's going to have to rely on the more powerful to like keep him safe or whatever.
Like Diem and his son?
Well, I was going to say we love Diem. She's got a big heart. I could see that softening Diem to him. And maybe that being an in with him and Luther making peace with each other. That would be the big hill to overcome, but I don't know.
I wonder if Remus and Gareth will end up having a choice between truly following Diem or not. And I could see Gareth absolutely not. And then Remus will decide to. And he will always still have his own best interest at heart. And he will still bend to the new will because he wants to stay in some kind of power.
Yeah, I could see that.
Okay, but back to Luther's absolute utter betrayal, because the crowd is going absolutely bonkers with this crazy plot twist. He just kissed her, claiming her as his for all of Lumnos to see. He was the one person Diem knew with certainty wouldn't challenge her. His whole mission in life is to protect her. He proved himself to her. She finally let down her guard and trusted him. But wait. Because we'll soon find out the real reason Luther steps forward to challenge Diem. And spoiler alert, it's not because he actually wants to kill her. It's exactly what Penn said just a little while ago in her phone to Penn. It's because he saw her give up and she looked like she was saying goodbye. Which, yes, like we were just saying, Diem was saying goodbye in her own way. Luther understood that Diem's spirit was crushed when all of Lumnos rose up against her and declared her unworthy. He knew Jean Hanover had the strongest magic and therefore would be her challenger. And he knew that Jean was on the warpath to defeat Diem. The entire House Hanover showed up in funeral red, for crying out loud. They are here for blood.
No.
But Luther can't let that happen. He recently told Diem he will give her everything he has to help her secure the crown and rule. And this action right here means that includes his life. If Luther throws his hat in the ring too, he will be selected as Diem's challenger because he is more powerful than Jean Hanover. And if Luther fights Diem, he can make it look like she's using magic and he can stage his own demise, ensuring Diem wins the challenging even if it costs him his life. And the way that Luther's family reacts, it seems like some of them pick up on his plan while others might not. Luther bends down to comfort Lily, whispering something Diem can't hear, but it's only making Lily sob harder. I bet you anything he is telling Lily that Diem has to win, and this is the only way, and that he's willing to sacrifice himself for it, and Lily has to help Diem when he's gone. Oh, that would absolutely make her cry harder. Teller is running up to Diem asking if they planned this. Smart guy, immediately assuming there is something more to this. Eleanor and Alix are staring at each other in shock, so it doesn't appear as though they've pieced together what Luther is doing. Or maybe they have figured it out and they're processing that Luther would indeed do this. Taryn, on the other hand, knows his chosen brother all too well. I doubt Luther gave Taryn any kind of heads up that he might do this because, as Ben let us know, he only just thought of this in the moment. I don't think Luther needs to share any plan with Taryn to know Luther's heart and his plan here. Taryn shows sadness because he knows that his brother is about to die. Diem wonders in the moment if it's disappointment, but I think that's her unreliable narrator more than anything. Disappointment that it's ending like this, wrapped up in the sadness. Because if it is disappointment that she is reading, it's disappointment that it's ending like this, wrapped up in the sadness that this is how it ends. When Taryn and Luther do have a heated talk and Taryn is angry, jabbing a finger in Diem's direction, I'm thinking he tells Luther to give Diem a chance to fight this battle on her own, that Luther is needed and he shouldn't go through with this plan. Meanwhile, Gareth is beside himself with fury, gesturing wildly, and Remus is in a panic because his son just made him break a bonded bargain and now he has no magic. He knows that if Luther knew his father would lose his magic in a bonded bargain, then he would challenge Diem. Well, maybe not exactly in that same moment, but hey, it's a happy extra. And so he's livid with Luther and Diem. Diem for being the reason, according to Remus, that he couldn't uphold his end of the bargain because she agreed not to tell anyone, and then she told the one person in House Courbois who has the biggest grudge against Remus. Sorry, Remus, guess not telling anyone should have been part of the bonded bargain. That would have been a smart thing. And he's furious with Luther for challenging Diem in the first place.
While we, the reader, Taryn, and Luther know Luther's true motives behind signing up for this challenge, Diem is seeing everything that Luther is doing, and it is shattering her perception of him. She's seeing him wanting to do this only to get back at his father, the man he hates, who stripped him of all his titles just recently. Luther is also ignoring Diem as she screams at him. She punches him, and he's even like, grr, back at her. Luther's saying that there's nothing he desires more than this, and how he's giving the realm the crown that the realm deserves. Which, those 2 points, how he desires nothing more than this, and he's giving the realm the crown that they deserve, it's not untrue, but it just, everything that he's saying sounds like it's me. It's me. It's me. And then he follows it up with, he just was meant to be king. Oh, I just can't wait to be king. And she's standing in his way. He's been waiting for this day for 30 days, and he's unwilling to watch another challenger fail to keep him from getting his throne. And at the end of the day, she still can't use her magic. With thousands of lives at risk, the realm needs a strong ruler. Okay, we know that Luther is faking this, but she knows this man has spent a lifetime hiding his true feelings. And he is putting those acting skills to work here. But Diem has it backwards. She believes that all that she's seen up until this point, that was the act. After all, this version of Luther, it does not align with anything that she knows of him to be true. And while her unconscious is nudging her to second guess what's going on, she's seeing all this cruelty and this, oh, I just can't wait to be king energy. And she thinks that this is the true Luther.
Well, and it confirms her fears about his true motive that she assumed early on, and she has been having to convince herself otherwise of. And now she's like, oh my God, I was right all along.
Yes, like it's like all this time he was playing me. He was getting me to let my guard down and let him in, share secrets with him, trust him. And now he's able to throw all of that in her face. All this time, he wanted the crown and he did not believe in her at all. It was all a lie. And I don't blame her for feeling fucking betrayed. And this betrayal does something for Diem. You know how she was looking up at Luther before he raised his hand and saying, I volunteer as tribute? She gave him that look of surrender and giving up. That is all out the window. She is now in a raging, angry fire. That betrayal reignited that will to live within her, to fight back, to stand up for her life. And for a moment, I love this, Luther's facade breaks. He shows pride that he has for his queen and the determination that has been brought back into her, even if it means his own impending death. Oh, love that.
But luckily, we have a smart younger brother who will soon enough piece together Luther's real intentions. Unlike Diem, Teller's not blinded by emotions and baggage, and he's looking at the bigger picture. When he'll gaze up at Luther when he urges Teller to convince Diem to change her mind, Teller recognizes the truth, and Luther will confirm it with a nod. If only Diem doesn't interrupt Teller when he tries to explain what Luther is really trying to do. Oh, he's probably so torn because he likes Luther, but if Luther fights his sister, she is guaranteed to survive to see another day. But she just doesn't give her little brother the chance, and I think he's just all caught up in their goodbyes too, so yeah.
Luther betraying her or no, Diem is unwilling to fight him directly. She's livid, yes, and definitely has her fighting spirit reignited, but she cannot make herself take it out on him. She can't kill him.
After all, the last 30 days have been real for her. And despite her anger and hurt and all the other big emotions right now, Diem has still come to care for Luther, even if he doesn't feel the same way.
So desperate to not fight Luther, Diem makes a new deal with Remus. Not a bonded bargain, because he don't have any magic for that. Instead, a promise of words and mutual trust. Remus is like,
Oh God, mutual trust.
Remus has to let Eleanor back into the family, and he promises to take care of Teller no matter what happens. And if she survives, she will tell no one that Remus has lost his magic. Remus is like, tempting. I like this. Again, because if people find out that he's magicless, they could easily go after him and kill him. He has been hanging power over how many people's heads for years. And him suddenly not being powerful, delicious. So she has his attention with this. It's Remus, after all, who's always looking to protect his own neck. But she has one more stipulation. She gets to pick her challenger.
Remus is like, but even if you win, if you don't choose Luther, then all the Descended will consider this void because it's breaking the rules in the Crown's favor. Diem's only comeback is that she'll have to make it convincing. In other words, hope to the gods that her godhood shows up and she can wield magic. Against his better judgment, but willing to do what he has to keep his now known magic a secret, Remus makes the announcement to the arena. Let the queen prove her worthiness as much by her choice of opponent as by her victory.
Now, as you can imagine, the bloodthirsty crowd of the citizens of Lumnos are not happy about this change of events, because that's not how it works. They want to see the most powerful people fight.
Well, and the whole point of the challenging is for the crown to prove whether they are or are not the most powerful Descended who is worthy to rule over the realm.
It's the rules, after all. But this is also the best kind of entertainment. And oh my God, like these asshats in the crowd. I swear to God, I cannot wait for Diem to put them in their place soon.
Also, this declaration from the regent of the realm rather surprisingly does not go over well with the challengers themselves, but for interestingly different reasons than the crowd's disappointment that the two most powerful won't be certain to face each other. The challengers protest this change in the rules, and some of the beeline for Rhon with accusations. Yep, it all comes out that this was a setup led by House Hanover. House Hanover said that all the houses have to act as one to take down Diem. And if everyone raises a challenge, then House Courbois can't punish any of them. And the plan, of course, included that the other challengers wouldn't have to worry about actually fighting Diem. Since Rhon was the most powerful of them, he'd be the one to risk his life up against her. That the Hanovers are using all their influence to ensure all the other houses agree to this plan. And use some leverage and blackmailing too. But also not hard to convince most of them. We can only imagine how House Hanover has poisoned the rest of the houses against Diem with what we've seen her openly accuse Diem of. Imagine what she's saying behind the scenes.
Well, and as you alluded to earlier, Rhon later says that the Hanovers even had the power of the warden behind them. Now, we know there's two wardens. There's the Warden of the Light, which is Luther, which we can strongly assume it was not him. And then there's the Warden of the Shadows, which is Gareth, who is absolutely trying to take Diem out. So I could see Gareth going to the other houses as well and threatening violence. Because, I mean, we all know that House Courbois is not afraid to literally decimate an entire house top to bottom.
Well, I think that Gareth was also speaking for House Courbois that they wouldn't punish them, that he was there as reassurance that, yes, House Courbois is also in on this plan. Don't worry, when you challenge us, we won't worry about it.
Well, and see, I could also see if House Hanover did do this all last night after Luther rejected the bond from Ileana to marry her, I would not be surprised if they let that little teeny bit of information out of the agreement. Because if all the houses believed that the Hanovers were going to be connected to the next crown, which everyone assumes is Luther, they would be way more willing to cooperate. If Luther already has a bonded bargain to marry Ileana and they're all agreeing to help out the Hanovers, it would look like they're helping the next crown, who they believe is more competent, to rise up. But on the flip side, if they shared that Luther rejected the bonded bargain, it would make the Hanovers look like they're already on the bad side of the next crown. So to your point, that's why Gareth would have been really helpful for these conversations to show that, hey, no, they're actually good on House Courbois.
Because the whole point of all the houses rising up, it means that they won't be singled out by House Courbois.
Basically, TLDR, these people are aggravating and I want to throat punch them.
On the one hand, yay that the rejection of Diem's reign isn't quite as united as it initially seemed. They were standing up to challenge her as part of a bigger plan, not because they themselves were actually wanting to challenge her because they themselves found her unworthy. It's a tiny silver lining there. This would have been a smart idea from the Hanovers if things didn't wind up as they do. Because if the plan worked out, Hanover couldn't take the blame as the only house to go up against the Courbois. House Courbois can't punish every descendant in Lumnos. That's just bad business on their end. So they would have to let it slide.
But now the question comes down to,
who is Diem gonna fight?
Teller encourages her to choose the weakest one. That way they can just get through this today and they can figure out any downside, any consequences of it another day.
He's relying on their father's first rule, always survive first.
Exactly. But if all these people, except Rhon and maybe Roderick, were coerced into challenging her from House Hanover, then they are technically innocent. And of course, this is Diem. There is no way she would challenge an innocent person. On the flip side, though, Diem could challenge the most guilty, and that is Rhon Hanover. But other than Luther, Rhon is the most powerful. And that's kind of a terrifying thought. I mean, I love our girl, but she ain't ready for that.
And while Rhon is certainly awful, Diem hasn't passed judgment on his guilt of a specific crime. He's a bad person through and through, we all know that, but that doesn't necessarily mean it'll field Diem's rage and determination for justice. Justice is the key word here, and Diem is very much a person who is, they're innocent until absolutely 1000% proven guilty.
Diem needs to challenge someone that she can find true anger in, and who she believes is guilty enough to be put through the challenging. And that's when her eyes fall on Rhon Ghislaine. Rhon may not be guilty for challenging her, but a few months ago, Diem witnessed this asshat attack an innocent mortal woman and their half-mortal child. Diem stepped in to try and save them, only to watch the mortal mother die before her eyes at Rhon's hand. Then when Diem begged Rhon for mercy for the child's life, basically that she would take the boy away. She would claim him as her own. She would never speak another word about him being the father. Rhon chose to murder his child, blaming it on the law. But the truth was that he did not want to be discovered fathering a half-mortal bastard. House Ghislaine has just been allowed into the 20 houses. He did not want to jeopardize their standing, so he killed the boy. Diem was so livid at this injustice, there's that word again, at this descendant who just decided that he wanted his child to be dead and that the child's life did not matter because he was a half-mortal. And that interaction with Rhon was exactly what drove Diem to go fight back with the Guardians. Rhon may not be guilty for rising a challenge against her, especially because it turns out it was Jean actually who enticed this challenge, but Diem can absolutely justify fighting him to the death because of what she witnessed a few months ago. She is unwilling to kill someone weak simply because it's easier for her, like Teller was saying, nor is she willing to kill the powerful and cruel just because it would be gratifying, like Jean Hanaver. But the guilty, Rhon Ghislaine, Diem will challenge you.
I love this full circle moment. This was such an oh my God reaction to how this whole challenging teed up for my first read. I remember thinking, all book, it's like, okay, like I know there's going to be a challenging and I can assume Diem will win somehow, some way, but it's like, how is this going to happen? And even before the challenging itself with all of this setup and it's like who she's actually going to challenge and it's Rhon and we came back from Spark and it's just like, oh my God, it is just so cool how Penn orchestrated all of that. It's masterful how the descended man who led Diem to join the Guardians in the first place is the one she will get to dish punishment on now as the Crown. Only one problem with this selection, though. Rhon is the worst possible choice from a political standpoint. He is from House Ghislaine, the weakest of the 20 houses and the lowest ranked. They are as irrelevant in the 20 houses as you can be. Choosing him would make Diem look like she purposefully went after the weakest house, which does nothing for her reputation and only makes her look worse. They've already changed the rules in her favor. Selecting Rhon as her opponent is taking advantage of this rule change. Plus, Rhon might come from the lowest ranked house, but his magic is pretty strong. According to Luther, Rhon fights dirty, so she can't let him out of her sight. As Remus sums up, challenging Rhon has all the consequences of someone weak without the benefit of an easy win. Oof. I love how Diem looks up to the sky and is like, oh, come on, Kindred. Like, this is such a sick sense of humor you have. They're all just like, patience, young grasshopper, as they watch on Zoom.
Diem has minutes before the start of the battle, and these very well could be her last. She takes the first bit to just word vomit everything she can to Teller, telling him that there's a box in her nightstand with a letter that she wrote to him. It contains everything that she can think of, the secrets about her mother and Luther, what she saw at her father's murder site, the Guardians and their plans, a warning against Sophos and their cruel ways, and even a stash of gold for him to go and start a new life. I don't know, if I was Teller, I'd be running straight for that box whether Diem wins or not. But maybe that's a little sister chaos gremlin in me. But there's one more thing that she could not get in that letter. Don't give up on what brings you joy. Get with Lily, little bro. And if she gets pregnant, go to Luther. What an older sister moment. I love this.
But then Teller leaves the tent, and with Diem alone, the war of calm, centered composure starts to lose the battle with her emotions, which is so fair. She begins to tremble in complete fear. She knows how to fight. If this was a battle of metal, she could be scrappy. She could end it really, really fast. She would also feel very confident going into this. But right now, she is going up against an opponent who knows how to fight in this particular technique from years of practice, and she can barely conjure an ember of magic. This is my version of going on stage and not knowing any of your lines, or as Lexi prefers, you're going to present to the board and you have nothing prepared, and oh yeah, after you present, they might kill you.
Luther has been insisting, no, demanding that Diem choose him. He's the most powerful challenger. If she doesn't choose him, they'll never accept her as queen. The crowd wants to see the two of them fight. It's the rules. He's used his scary executor facade. He's thrown down the end of discussion. And now he's got one more way of desperately trying to get her to change her mind about challenging Rhon. He barges into her tent and holds the sword of Courbois to her throat. Diem, if you don't change your mind, he'll kill you right here. But really, he is willing to sacrifice her opinion of him to save her life, to push her away and put his mask on of the cruel prince, and to make her angry and stubborn enough to duel him in the challenging. He's relying on Diem's emotions, as is usually pretty reliable to do, to get Diem worked up enough to want to fight against Luther. It doesn't work, though. because the fire in Diem has sputtered out again when faced with this commanding Luther and death awaits. She can't go up against him, and she knows it in her heart. She cares too much about him. If he wants to kill her now, then do it. She's dead anyway.
He's got one hand gripping her throat and the sword of pourboire pinned at her jaw. This is the inverse of their first kiss, where she had a dagger to his throat. And listen, I'm gonna say it, hot.
Yet it's when Diem admits that she can't kill Luther and he says, choose me anyway. That's when it clicks. The fight in Luther goes out, and now he's broken on his very last attempt to get her to choose him so he can die and she can live. Let him do this for her. This sacrifice would be his honor. And with this newfound kind of declaration, understanding the reason that he challenged her in the first place, it changes everything for Diem with how she views Luther. It erases any of her mistrust in him. It is solidified that no matter what, she can always wholeheartedly trust Luther to put her first. He loves her with everything he has to give and then some. And with this final recognition, Diem gives her whole heart, finally, truly, 1,000,000% to Luther.
For the first time, these two are seeing the full depth of truth in how they both feel. There's no more masks of pretending that she doesn't feel anything for him. There's no more armor protecting Diem from falling for him. There's only that true honesty they both needed from the other since the beginning. And that realization that Luther, this selfless, incredible man, has been here, walking beside her in the hopeless dark, and he's burned for her in the fiery light, that is when it clicks. This time, there is no mistaking it. That Diem Bellator is the one to kiss Luther. All the walls between them come crumbling down. This is not the bloody lust of their first kiss or the tender gentleness of the one moments ago in front of the whole crowd. This is the kiss of joining two souls together who are ready to be lonely no more. Oh my God! While Diem's touches are urgent and desperate to consume every single little bit of him while she still has the opportunity, Luther's exploration is slow and focused. It's like he has all the time in the world because he will accept no other outcome. As they break apart, Luther tells her that, quote, "It's rude to kiss a man like that and then die, Your Majesty." To which Diem says that she'll have to live. This may not be the angry determination to live that Luther reignited in her moments before the challenging, but this is a different kind of determination. This is a I will live for us, for this. Before Luther leaves her, there's one last reminder. Quote, "Burn, my queen, glow so bright the darkness trembles." This is one of the most famous lines out of this book, and we need to talk about this. First, I love that he starts with "burn, my queen." How many times on this podcast have we brought up Diem's language around fire and burning and all of that stuff and how it's embedded in who she is in her soul? But there's that second part. Quote, "Glow so bright the darkness trembles." Not only does this contain the main word of the title of this book, glow, but the meaning behind this phrase just makes my heart want to explode and me book a tattoo appointment immediately. This isn't a go, kill, be vengeful. This is a reminder that she is brightness and light, and that in a dark world around her, she can change the tide through that shine. Lexi and I growing up, we heard the phrase "be a force for good" a lot, and that is exactly what this quote means to me. It's be the brightest, be the lightest force in a darkened world. And in fact, actually, Brett always calls me, he's really sweet, he calls me like a light. He says like, "You're the sunshine in a room." And maybe that's also why this quote just means so much to me. Maybe that's also why I love Luther so much. He reminds me of that of my husband. Just maybe a little bit more dark and broody than my golden retriever. And I know that something we strive here at FFG is to always glow so bright that any darkness trembles. Hence, positive phages.
Now that the actual battle of the challenging is upon us, let's set the stage. We're in the same large stone stadium as the late king's funeral, and I'm under the impression it can hold all of the Lumnos descended and several thousand mortals. So big stadium. I say stadium, they call it an arena. Same thing. It's also been completely transformed since last time, with the arena now serving as a fighting pit. Obstacles are scattered on the sandy ground. Boulders, fallen logs, pits of mud and such, to make the fighting, more entertaining, obviously. Since Diem arrived to this challenging with the might of House Courbois behind her, the crowd in this arena might as well be capital citizens watching the Hunger Games. This is all a game to them. It's a spectacle. They're judging and gossiping about Diem without a care in the world that she is fighting for her life. What's this to them who live such long, boring lives of privilege? What do they know about this kind of suffering? There's no empathy for a fellow life. They're ready to cheer this all on with their bloodthirst. They want to be entertained! Right before the challenge begins with Rhon, Luther demonstrates to Diem that there is a magical barrier protecting the audience from the fighting in this arena, so no magic can reach them. Love how this means so much to Diem, who needed that reassurance if she lets her magic loose, she won't hurt anyone. Therefore, she can give herself permission to let it go and let loose with her magic if it so happens to show up. Then there is Diem's found family with their arms around Teller, a sign of support and promise to Diem. So beautiful! Diem also takes a meaningful moment to pay homage to her father, who she knows is there with her today. She takes some of the soil she had collected from his gravesite and sprinkles it on the ground. She has spent her whole life preparing for this battle. Yes, it might be a battle of magic, but her father taught her to outsmart her opponent. He taught her to take advantage of their weaknesses. He taught her to win when she's the underdog. And boy, oh boy, is she the underdog today. So, with all that, who's ready to rumble with his signature Fantasy Fangirls beat by beat battle? And Diem opens with calling Rhon out, so he knows exactly what justice he has to answer to. He has 2 deaths to answer to, that's what. And since learning he's the one who will be fighting Diem, there's been like a hint of fear in Rhon, because he recognizes her from the last time they faced off, where she walked away unscathed. Yet she was able to cut him with a Fertosian blade and make him bleed. This might not be the same as her using magic, but I'm pretty sure he knows that she can hold her own and somehow, some way avoid his magic.
Rhaenys' voice is still echoing off the crowd when Rhon shoots out a volley of shadow-bolted arrows at Diem. Damn, Rhon, give her a moment! Like Luther said, though, homeboy, fight sturdy! But luckily, those bolts crash and dissipate against her shield. That was a lot stronger than she remembered it being a few months ago, but more on that later. With the first attack deflected, the crowd begins to roar! Hooray! This is because it's going to be an actual battle, not just a one-shot duel! Rhon launches yet another series of shadow arrows at Diem, all of which Diem shields away. But yikes! She won't be able to shield forever. Her well of magic will eventually run dry soon. Oh, Diem's got a good opening here. She says, quote, "Got a lot of problems with women going dry when you're around, Rhon?" And Rhon, a man with a hurt ego, begins throwing everything he has at her, causing her to gasp and stagger back, making Rhon throw out his arms and show off to the crowd like the asshole has already won.
It's got to be quite the power high for him to attack the crown and get a round of applause because of it. Instead of giving into her instinct to run, Diem keeps her shield in place and holds her ground. As an initial strategy, Diem is only shielding in front of her to conserve her energy, but a quick move from Ron's shadow arrow splitting into 3, pew, to target Diem's back as well, enforcing a full dome shield, her shield responding to the threat with near instinctual speed. Aha! The godhood is paying attention, even if it's not coming out as anything besides a shield. At least we got something here. Since shields drain power much faster than weapons, this fully enforced shield technically means Diem is going through her reserves way quicker than she should be. However, there's something different about the shield than the other one she thinks she conjured in the Mortal City fight against Rhon. Previously, Diem didn't feel a thing when his magic crashed into her. Quick celebration for Diem, not thinking he missed anymore, because at the time, she was still Lulu and talked herself into him missing multiple times. At least now she's like, oh, I didn't miss, it was just, I accidentally shielded. But this time, the force of his magic weapons sent her back a step. It has her feeling like she's wading through mud when previously she didn't feel anything at all, like I said. I just love these little nuggets that illustrate how unique Diem is when there's so much else going on. Resorting to more mundane methods, Diem runs behind a boulder, and seeing that she's missing, Rhon pulls his shield fully around himself, using more of his magic as well. Grabbing a handful of small rocks, Diem chucks one at Ron's back, going through his shield. which means Rhon is only shielding against magic-based attacks, which is his first mistake. Using more of these pebbles, Diem chucks them in different directions, causing Rhon to attack where the noises are coming from and depleting his magic even more, his second mistake. All the while, during these dodges and throws and moves, Diem channels her father's lessons and taunts Rhon about how terrible he is in bed, and it works him into such a rage. I just love how she imagines Andre smiling down with pride after how much she's been in turmoil that he isn't proud of her. But here Diem is at her roots that he nurtured, and how she thinks about Teller in the crowd, and that he knows exactly what she's doing because it's his favorite tactic on her. As Andre always advised, an emotional fighter is a sloppy fighter. Let your opponent focus on seeing you beg at his feet rather than die at his hand. That is exactly what Diem is doing to Rhon right now, and he's playing right into her hand, which is his third mistake. Bellator for the win! Creeping up behind him, Diem takes a handful of sand and blows it in his face. Phew! Love how this is after he turns around when she's like, I already have the crown. Queen, move! While attempting to clear the sand from his eyes, Rhon makes a fatal error and he drops his shield, which is his fourth mistake.
Diem's perfect opening is here. She thrusts her hand out ready to strike Rhon down. And nothing. She pleads with her godhood. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Nothing happens. Rhon, finally getting the sand out of his eyes, sees Diem standing above him and tackles her to the ground, his shadows leaking from his palms. Diem is panicking. She can't trick him with funny comebacks and rocks all day long, but if she can't use her magic for this fight, it will never end with her victory. Throwing her shield up, Diem runs behind barrier after barrier, but Rhon is destroying each and every single one. With no other options left, Diem attempts to plead with her godhood again, but nothing happens. After destroying her last cover, Rhon's shadows surround Diem, beating on her shield. And while she's safe in her shield, she's also trapped. Either she has to figure a way out of this or hope her magic can last longer than his. After all, as she points out multiple times, she doesn't think he can last very long. Male ego hurt again. Reaching inward for her magic, Diem can feel it waiting, it listening, watching, but it's almost like it doesn't feel like she's in enough danger to need to protect her. Every other time her life was in danger, it rose up to protect her. Apparently, Rhon's too weak to warrant a life-saving magic search.
When really it's that her godhood knows Diem is on the cusp of tapping inward and it's holding out on her because it believes in her to figure out how to use her magic to get herself out of the situation. Rhon catches on that Diem is not attacking him back or doing anything beyond shielding whatsoever, almost as if she can't. Which, yep, Diem is convinced her godhood helps her as if it's a separate entity that is inside of her. And in a way, it has been as it exists within her, coming to her aid when necessary as she comes into her own as a descendant. What she hasn't discovered yet is that her godhood is still part of her, and until she can embrace it as herself instead of something else, it's not going to answer her the way she is asking it to. Like we've talked about, the idea of a descendant not being able to wield their magic is unfathomable. They learn how their godhood is part of them when their magic comes in. It's part of who they are as a culture with their biology. Diem hasn't had that luxury nor the want to identify as a descendant with a godhood that's an extension of her. Armed with his suspicion that the new Queen of Lumnos, supposedly the most powerful descendant in the realm, she can't use magic, Rhon removes his own shield, opens his arms to expose his chest, and gives Diem one free shot. He is this confident in his assumption, as he has the right to be, because no matter how much Diem pleads for the voice to respond as she can feel it build up in her chest, her godhood just isn't acting. And now, everyone in Lumnos knows her secret. Previously, it was just rumors that she couldn't use magic, probably started by Ileana thanks to her well-placed source we speculated about last episode. But the truth is laid bare in this moment. Rhon is calling Diem out for this biggest of big weaknesses. He is wide open for her to attack. He is taunting her in every which way, and she can't do anything about it. Even if Diem miraculously survives this battle of magic, this revelation will have dire consequences among all of Lumnos. Like we've discussed so much in our Glow Deep Dive, the Descended care about status and power beyond anything else. A realm crown who can't wield their magic leaves the territory vulnerable. It's the ultimate sign of weakness, and the other Descendant of the realm won't stand for it. This is one of the whole points of the challenge in the first place, and why it's a battle of magic. If a house has an issue with a crown, they need to prove they are magically more powerful, which it would seem any descended could successfully do against Diem. As Rhon says, it would seem Blessed Mother Lumnos has found Diem unworthy too.
But Diem has something that Rhon doesn't. Something even better than magic. A Gryphon! Rhon looks up the sky in absolute horror. Only, funny story, Sarai isn't allowed here. It was all a ruse. Diem is practically in a state of glee with this ha-ha-ha fake out, using the distraction to run, Diem, run! And she almost made it. But then her foot slips out from under her in the mud, her own momentum causing her to stumble forward, and her head slams against a boulder with a sickening crack. Diem hears Luther scream her name, but it sounds distant and muffled, and the world goes hazy. A very different sight appearing before her eyes as Rhon's razor-sharp spikes plunge down at her chest.
Who is ready for the third time we've seen this vision? But like every new time we see the vision, we get an extra twist. This vision happens when Diem is unconscious. It's nighttime in the middle of a war, and Diem is wearing the same dark glittering armor as before and carrying the same blade.
We know this outfit and accessory. The glittering black armor is made of Godstone, the very Godstone that Alik's mined when Diem exploded after her father's murder. But instead of making weapons out of it that could harm others, they made it into armor to protect those on their side, since nothing can penetrate Godstone. This sword, however, is the blade of black etched with gold scroll work, which is currently chillin' in Sophos, but was once one of the Kindreds. It's just waiting for Diem to pick it up next book. Now, she will give it back to the Sophos archives after the Ophiuchi attack next book, but I guess we're going to have an archives heist in Bern because she'll need to get it back for this scene.
She's surrounded on all sides by rings of bodies that extend as far as the eye can see. Luther stands across from Diem, the blood-soaked sword of Courbois in his hand. Both have their right hand palm lying across the left side of their chests. This time in the vision, so this is what's new this time around, across the battlefield is the form of a man glowing as bright as the moon. Everything about him is gray and colorless. Skin, eyes, hair. This is quite interesting. What did you say?
Welcome to the story. Ophi, Diem's birth father, Ophiuchi. Hold on, though, because I just hurt the shit out of my hand gripping the edges of my chair because we get a moon watch. And I think I finally have a formal-ish theory for all the moon mentions.
The moon being mentioned next to our first visible moment of Ophiuchi, it cannot be an accident, especially since last episode we got a moon watch right before Diem asked the orb of answering about her birth father and if he's still alive, and the orb was shining in the moon. This got me thinking, what color is the moon? Kind of gray, but also silver. I feel like the moon mentions are that gorgeous literary symbolism telling us to connect that moment with the 13th kindred power somehow, or even just Omnos in general. This is my first draft of the moon theory.
I love this idea with the moon, and especially with like that colorlessness. It does definitely correlate here, and especially with how much Diem glows, and I get all of that. How is that different than Lumnos's with like the light and the shadow, and how it's like the moon and the sun with as their sigil? The moon's kind of taken.
You know what I'm going to do at the Everflame ball, because we have a Q&A with Penn. I am going to ask her if the moon means anything, and we're going to see if she allows me to ask that.
I love this little mention of how beautiful Ophiuchi is, because as we know, the Descended, but more specifically the Kindred, are stunning creatures. And I feel like this, he was almost too beautiful to look upon, is foreshadowing for him being a Kindred versus just a normal Descended.
Extending his hand to Diem, he invites her, the daughter of the Forgotten, to join him, and together they will destroy this world and build it anew, ending the Descended and their rule forever.
If this vision had happened a month or two ago, I think she would have taken his hand. I think she would have, though, been much more inclined to join Ophiuchi and hearing that they could end the Descended rule. So thank
goodness. The Kindred, up in their conference room on Zoom, waited to show Diem this particular PowerPoint before she was in this state of mind.
Diem looks at this mysterious man because while we know it's her father, she absolutely does not know this yet. She looks at him, she feels an overwhelming urge to kneel at his feet and surrender. But Diem's godhood tells her to fight. And we listen to our godhood. As we're talking about the Kindred and all this, I want to point out that when Diem hears the name Omnos for the first time toward the end of Heat, her godhood feels a kinship. Omnos is home for it. So if her godhood is telling her to fight in this instance against either the offspring of Omnos or Omnos himself, then I think that's something to pay attention to. When Diem refuses to join him, he asks why she would defend them, meaning the Descended. Oh my God, Henry, is that you?
This is a huge Easter egg for us readers about what, at least what I believe, is the curse. That Ophi is pissed at the Descended for locking him up. And this is him asking if she will aid him in revenge.
Well, I think it goes back even further because we know that he was locked up during the Blood War by the Descended. And way earlier than that, his kindred siblings sacrificed him.
Yep.
And he clearly didn't die, or if Omnos did die, he had some offspring. Now we have Ophiuchi here. In Diem's internal monologue, as she has this vision, she acknowledges that the Descended are still her people. The blood of the kindred runs through her veins just as much as her mortal blood. It's only this moment that Diem realizes in order to truly be worthy of her crown like she's been trying to be, she needs to stop denying this truth and fight to protect both the mortals and the Descended, from each other and from this mysterious man. Yes, Diem has previously stood up for all innocent lives, including mortal and Descended. She did run into the armory to save Descended after all. But it is only now that she embraces she is also Descended, and that is the huge difference. She must stand up for both of her people. Lifting her sword, a wall of silver flames rises around Diem.
There's those silver flames again. We still don't know if this is the power of the Kindred or the power from Omnos, but
damn, it's cool to see her wield them like a badass.
And with that, she says to this mysterious man that we'll again find out is her sire, Ophiuchi, I do not rule for you, I rule for them. The man becomes furious and says, then she'll die like the rest of them. And suddenly there is a blinding explosion of light that lights up the world until there is nothing but endless light. Oh my God, Thanos just did the snap. And the voice whispers, now, daughter of the forgotten, now you are ready. Huzzah! Diem is ready! What exactly does this mean, though? It is only now that Diem truly embraces her Descended side, like I was just saying. She's tolerated it since she processed that she's wearing the crown. But like we've been saying, she thinks of her godhood as something separate from her, when really it is part of her. It is the embodiment of her Descended side. And until she can metaphorically look in the mirror and love and accept all of who she is made up of, both Descended and mortal, she will unconsciously repel the magic that must be intertwined with her. Up until now, her godhood has been a protector and a source of guidance for the most part, but she needs to become independent and be capable of using it all on her own. And the only way to do that is to adopt it as simultaneously an extension of her and a core part of her. It's with this realization that Diem is dubbed ready to rise to her full strength and power, ready to become the leader that this world needs, ready to wield her magic herself to defend all of the people of this world.
Well, and I'm going to add an extra addition to this because I feel like the Kindred are also, they've been holding back on her getting her magic because if she was still angry with the Descended and got her magic, she, a very powerful being, might have sided with Ophiuchi, like I was saying earlier, and they would have been unstoppable. But by her saying, no, I will not side with you, that is now the Kindred saying, okay, you can now tap into your magic because you are the balance to his evil.
Yes. Ooh, I like that.
I always go back to whenever she thinks the word balance in Sophos' next book, like an out-of-body experience happens for her. And we're not getting quite into theories for that yet, but I also can't help but think that that balance is one of the reasons she was able to untap her magic. But anyway, we're back in the arena, that is, because no time has passed at all. The death spikes are headed her way. There's no time to dodge, just accept her fate. Wait, nothing happened. He must have missed.
Just kidding.
Diem didn't feel anything except a glow and a prickling across her skin, a sensation like ice and fire.
George R. R. Martin, is that you?
She absorbed the magic, but she's totally fine.
Rhon is gobsmacked. Diem is gobsmacked. The crowd gasps, then murmurs wildly. This has never been seen before. Pause. This has never been seen before. Diem raises to her feet. She's still a little wobbly from, smacking the shit out of her head when she went down like a tree.
And her head injury, though, it does seem like it's healing fast, which, yes, as we will learn in Heat, whenever she absorbs magic, it also speeds her healing. And as she stands, her hands begin to tingle, darkness swirling in one, puddling at her feet, and the other orbs of shimmering light begin to form.
Our girl is using magic!
None of those failed training sessions could teach Diem how to conjure her magic because she couldn't connect with it. Kinda as Taryn tried to tell her, but Luther is the one who drove it home. Yeah, I did. With it being part of her. This whole time, Diem has been begging her godhood like a needy toddler, asking it to save her. And at first it held her hand and did just that. But eventually, even her magic knew the training wheels needed to come off, and Diem needed to learn a painful but necessary lesson. She didn't need to surrender to her magic or beg it to save her. Instead of waiting for her godhood to embrace her, what she really needed to do was embrace herself. And I don't care if it is cheesy, it's a sweet message to all of us. Just like how she cherished the humanity and love her mortal family instilled in her by accepting her immortality, magic, and the crown, Diem is able to put both halves for her identity together and become whole. With barely a thought, Diem is able to use her magic. It's easy, it's simple, it's blissfully effortless. Diem compares it to as easy as flexing a fist or as natural as smiling. That's saying a lot coming from Diem, as fighting hand-to-hand combat is practically second nature to her, having grown up training with her father and sparring with Teller. Her magic has become an extension of her rather than something she's fighting to control. The magic was within her all along. The ability to use it was there the whole time. And the fact that this comes so easily to her versus needing to, do some magic training feels like a hint to the direct kindred line and how it makes her extra special and powerful. I've seen some people complain that Diem's just suddenly able to use all of her magic. I think that's the point. That is another hint to how she is extra special. Not only is she extra powerful, but it's easier for her to wield her powers.
With this newfound mastery over her magic, Diem conjures one light and one shadow arrow and points it at Rhon's chest through his shield.
He sees this is the end. Rhon starts surrendering.
Just kidding, he does not do any of that. He releases the full brunt of his magic on Diem, who doesn't even bother raising a shield against him. Instead, she absorbs this newfound power, getting more powerful. Eventually, though, Rhon's power runs dry, and he stumbles to the ground. Sucks to suck, asshole! Diem uses her light magic to bind his ankles and wrists together in glowing chains. After he's bound and can't move, Diem uses her shadows to wrap around his limbs all the way up to his neck, leaving him completely at her mercy. Kinky.
It's very clear who the winner of this challenging is. Our queen, Diem! Rhon's magic is drained. He has nothing left to fight against her. He just go poof, just like little nothing. She is indestructible, where none of his magic works on her anyway, and she's erased any doubt of her power. With nothing left to lose, cowardly Rhon Ghislaine breaks down and begs, "Have mercy! This wasn't my fault!" As Rhon grovels and begs Diem to have mercy on his life, we can't help but think back to a similar situation in an alley in the bad part of Mortal City, when the mother of their child begged Rhon for their lives. And when Diem pleaded that he didn't have to do this, that she'll take responsibility and he can just walk away, he didn't care and went through with the unnecessary murder anyway.
With Rhon in this position now, begging for his life, it's no question who has won this challenging. And there's only one thing left to do. Kill him. A few months ago, Diem, like Lexi just mentioned, begged Rhon and he did not relent. So why would she now? Why would she not dish out that same fate for Rhon that he gave to his son? But wouldn't that just be more of the same? Fighting fire with more fire. Exactly what the Guardians are doing, and also the Descended. If Diem wants to bring peace to the realm, she has to start showing them, like maybe a whole realm gathered in one arena, that there is another way.
It's not as easy as just outright dishing out payback. No, this is the much harder choice. Showing the Descended that mercy is an option and that it is one that she will reach for even when it is much, much more difficult. So today, Diem chooses to spare Rhon's life. I love this about Diem. We are so used to FMCs being assassins or trained killers, but I feel like this makes Diem so refreshing in the way that she doesn't. She does always try to spare a life. Yes, sometimes it makes us want to shake her, like with Vance, or sometimes it will backfire, like it's about to. But she wants to always choose good every time. And I'll be honest, I love that about her. It's why she's one of my favorite FMCs out there. So she, even with how delulu she is sometimes, so she makes Rhon promise he is never allowed to take an innocent life again, and he will audibly yield before her. Today, she will spare Rhon's life. After all, quote, the true measure of strength is not in the lives we take, but in the lives we save.
Oof. I love that line.
Me too.
I will give you one guess about the crowd's reaction to this rather anticlimactic end of the challenging. What the heck? Where's the rest of their entertainment? They want their blood. What the fuck is this? Once again, showing just how different these Descended are than Diem's ideals and preparing us for what's to come in a few moments.
But Luther, his reaction could not be more opposite of that of the crowd's. She was expecting, relief or even a smug "I told you so." But instead, his look at his queen is so much more. He looks at Diem like she is the embodiment of hope, like she is every answer to every question she's ever asked, like she is the shining light in the dark that will lead the world on its path. Oh, weeping. Yes, this is him getting the confirmation from Mother Lumnos that she was right, and the vision that she sent him is exactly, this is the queen who will change the world and bring peace. But this is also so much more. This is the woman he loves coming out victorious in a way that did not equal bloodshed. And he's so proud of her. He's so unbelievably proud of her.
Ron's not quite done with his Majesty's attention, though. He calls out to Diem that there's just one more thing, and his hands are clasped behind him in a show of submission, head down. But then, with the Queen's attention now on him, now that she's, faced him, Rhon launches himself at Diem, exclaiming, the challenging isn't over until one of us dies. He pulls a motherfucking Godstone blade out from behind his back, and Rhon tries to drive it straight into Diem's chest. Keyword is tries, because the blade pierces the fabric of her suit and just barely scrapes her skin. Hold up! In this moment, we don't get confirmation that the blade Rhon nicks Diem with is Godstone, but it matches the exact description with glittering black. Even just a scrape like what Diem gets here can be fatal, as we will learn in Heat. It should be bad news bears for Diem, and yet it has no consequences on her. How very interesting! And further proof why the Godstone blade Igneos tries to kill her with also will not have the same lethal effects. Because Diem is other. She is not Descended. Godstone is so closely tied to the kindred, they are its makers, but it is their offspring's demise. And I can't wait to talk about all this in Heat. This Godstone blade brings up another question, though. Where the hell did Rhon get it from? Because Godstone blades, even among the Descended, are extremely rare. Any of the Godstone was made during the Kindred's reign, right? And then they gave it to their Descended offspring, to protect the realms and whatnot. And over the years, and it got into mortals' hands, and then it was during the Blood War, and there is very, very, very little Godstone left, is my point. So, it seems strange that a small house like House Ghislaine would have a Godstone weapon. Not impossible, but we can't forget Rhon had no intention of actually fighting Diem. He was the worst option after all, and Jean was supposed to be the one to fight. This makes me wonder if Jean had the Godstone blade, and when Rhon was selected instead, Jean sneaky passed it over to Rhon to ensure Diem meets her end. Or House Ghislaine, having their shrewd dealings in gold, did have Godstone, and Ron's a big enough ass to just, carry it around with him.
I'm fully in the corner of the first option, that it was Jean who slipped it. Or maybe it was even Gareth who slipped it to Rhon, because we know that Gareth is really ready to see Diem dead. Yikes!
Well, going back to when Rhon did say, it was Jean, it was the Hanovers, and the warden was with them. We assume that is Gareth, who is the Warden of Shadows. I will say, though, it could be Eamon because it is not confirmed, but I think he took Luther's title as Warden of the Light, and we know that he is friends with the Hanoveres too. But whether it was Gareth or Eamon, I wonder if he just gave all of the 20 houses. No, I don't think they would just give a Godstone blade to the 20 houses now that I say that. Never mind. I do think that it would have been Jean Hanover, or in this moment, it was just passed to Rhon to make sure that he takes Diem down once and for all.
I think it was either Jean or Gareth slyly handing it to him because no matter what, those are the two biggies who want Diem dead. Anyway, no matter what, Rhon sucks to suck, you traitor! Because with just a whisper of a thought and a flash of silver light, Rhon is gone.
Diem didn't even exactly mean to make Rhon go poof. It's her magic reacting to her situation instinctually.
Well, and all that's left is a cloud of ash and the faint smell of burnt flesh. Delicious. This is a very similar thing as to what happened back in Spark the Everflame with the wolf. Diem instantly disintegrating him out of pure instinct. The only thing that's missing between these two moments is those glittering black stone fragments. Since Diem in this moment at the challenging covers the ground in shadows, we don't know if Rhon is, not little teeny tiny Godstone gems, but we can assume that since she doesn't comment on it, that there aren't any. But I wonder if that's because she was just cut with a Godstone blade, and it's almost like she can't produce that type of glittering little black pieces when she makes him go poof, and maybe it nullified it for a moment. I don't know. Anyways, Rhon is dead!
We will deal with the complicated feelings Diem has about all that later, because while she tried to be a bigger person and pave the way for a better future, the Descended are clearly set in their ways. For a moment, they are shocked. She just made someone go poof. Have we mentioned this is magic never seen before? Holy shit, she just poofed someone. And then the crowd gives a deafening cheer because they finally been entertained and gotten what they came to see, a pound of flesh, a show, and a loser dead. Diem tried, and she has been trying to show this world does not have to be so divided and unequal for the Descended immortals. But it feels like neither side will hear of it, especially right now when she literally shows a higher ground they can take, but they're too stuck in their ways. So Diem snaps. Fuck these people who are cheering on for the death of someone. They don't even care who is the one who dies. They've been cheering for both sides. Fuck them and their lack of empathy for lives and suffering, whoever it may be. I do not blame Diem whatsoever here. If she can't persuade these people with peace, then she'll command with fear. Fine, if they won't listen and take notes when she's leading with kindness, then she'll adopt their ways and lead with power and control. I personally don't think this is her strategy to do so for the rest of her reign, but more so to take control of this situation and put them all in their places. They think she's not powerful or worthy enough to be queen? Okay, let's see what they have to say about that now. And if they're afraid of her, then they'll listen more to her, and she's in charge. She gets to do things her way.
Limnos's tits! Diem was trying to teach you all a lesson, and it turns out it did not land. So spreading out her arms, Diem unleashes her power, coating the floor in a sea of shadows that, quote, churned in a raging whirlpool. Oh! Thorny black vines creep up the walls of the arena, their thorns tapping against the barrier that protects the specters from the challenger's magic. An orb of shimmering light forms around Diem, lifting her up on a suction of air until she's high above the ground, glowing stars swarming around her like fireflies, almost like she's the moon, I wonder? From her fingers, jagged bolts of lightning form in a blinding web of sizzling pale blue. Above the amphitheater, the sky begins to darken into pitch black. In seconds, it is nighttime outside. This is huge. Diem's skin illuminates with a, quote, radiant moonlight sheen, and her hair floats weightless around her. Closing her eyes, Diem reaches for the forging magic of the realm and pours her own magic into it until the two entities merge and become one. This is no longer the realm and her queen, only one devastating force of nature.
I love it. I want to take magic description classes from Pen. She's so great at describing magic.
Yes, she is. With only the snap of her finger, the protective barrier falls, shattering into a cloud of glowing silver that scatters in the sudden updraft of wind. Is this kindred magic?
I'm going to guess kindred magic, and it's kind of like how she was able to push Simon out of her mind.
Yes.
It's like she can repel magic or more so get past it. Magic can bend to her will, and I think that's a kindred thing, or maybe even an Omnos specific thing. When it comes to this barrier with the arena, I wonder if it was kind of created with 4D magic. So in that case, it could be a crown thing because they are able to literally bend their realm to their will in whatever way, as I think it's Arboros who tells her that. So it could be a 4G magic thing, but I like to think it's a kindred thing with how she can just really and truly bend magic to her will.
Well, and especially how they become one. I feel like that's so kindred coded. But anyway,
regardless, everyone is fucking terrified because now their protection against this queen who's now rising above, who just made it nighttime outside, who has shadows beneath her, and she is the fucking moon. They're trying to desperately get away from her and her power, but Diem doesn't allow it.
After what these people have put her through this past month and what they've made her own people go through for centuries, even a millennia, I can imagine how satisfying this would be for Diem.
With a jerk of her wrist, the vines that cover the arena's walls multiply, thousands of tendrils whipping out and wrapping around the throats of every single descended in the amphitheater. Can you imagine being a mortal watching this? I'd be like, holy shit!
I'd be like, bye. Oh, sorry, you're screwed. Bye-bye.
They don't know what any descendant is capable of, and if they see one descendant do this, they might think all descendants can do this. I would be out of a Marian in a heartbeat. Anyway, in an old, cold, ancient, deeply powerful voice, like the voice of the kindred, Diem says, quote, "Your queen has not dismissed you."
This show of power is mind-blowing. Diem is demonstrating never-before-seen power here. First, making Rhon go poof. Hovering above the ground, this is not something Descended can do. Taryn will wonder how Diem does this in her bonus chapter on Pen's website. Breaking down the magic barrier, orchestrating light and shadow magic like no one has ever imagined with no effort whatsoever. She doesn't even need a shield to protect herself from magic. And here they all are thinking she couldn't have used magic just like literally 5-10 minutes ago. They all thought that she was weak and unworthy and someone to stand up against. Ha! Eggs on their faces. And also, I bet Luther is just like, see, I knew you were this powerful. And if you can use your magic, you will overpower anyone a millionfold.
You're not allowed to leave class yet because you all did not finish your homework. The challenging is not over until Diem has been judged victorious and worthy. Anyone? Jean? Let's start with you. The vine around his neck pulls taut, nearly yanking him out of his seat. Diem goads him, asking him if she should kill every challenger to see if there's any doubt that she would be unmatched. He and House Hanaver, aka Marth, both submit. Quote, House Hanaver will kneel. But it's not without a gleam of defiance in her eyes. Next is the head of House Bonnet, who, Evram, immediately dips his chin. He's like, yes, your majesty, I promise, your majesty. Next is Burnham, who she does not even have to ask before the twin spouse mates immediately go to their knees. But there was one other house, another very powerful house that challenged her. So gliding to Luther, who was just giddy at watching Diem serve everyone their asses, Diem wraps her finger around the vine that is around Luther's neck and she tugs him down. He slides his hand around her neck and pulls her in for a deep, reverent kiss. Quote, House Courbois will kneel, my queen.
With Remus and Gareth unhappily confirming that they won't cause any more problems. Have some thoughts about that. Her worthiness and strength of power proven and no one daring to speak up about her challenging, Diem is no longer unchallenged. Quote, citizens of Lumnos, I am no longer unchallenged. My reign begins today. Technically, it won't begin until she's coronated, which is only supposed to be a formality. But we all know how that'll go. Anyway, we're going to enjoy this major win. The whole book has been leading up to this moment of victory, and Diem finally tapping into her magic and seeing just how powerful she truly is. With that, she finally says, kneel before your queen, and all of Lumnos does. They kneel to the most powerful descendant of Lumnos, yes, but they're also having to kneel to a half-mortal. Someone who has made it very clear she's going to create some changes around here, but power always wins, and Diem's using that to her advantage. Diem is victorious! Huzzah! In this Magic Field segment of the episode, let's tap into our Umbros magic and turn our full attention to other important foreshadowing moments for the last stretch of this book and the rest of the series, including speculations for Book 4, Burn of the Everflame. Diem makes fun of Luther's attachment to the Sword of Courbois and how she knows better than to take a man's jewelry away. They just get so fussy about it. Vance will wind up with Luther's sword in heat, and Luther will go on quite the mission to get it back and save a bunch of school children as he does it.
When Diem asks Moira if Lana is at the Healer Center, Moira says, no, she's with friends in Arboros. Ah, yes, she is with friends. We don't know officially if she is in Arboros or if she's still in Lumnos. We need to ask Penn about that. But she was definitely with the Guardians on their mission to attack Kirill. We get another Diem's gonna free Sarai mention, this time as she's touching the golden chain around Sarai's neck. Okay, so we know that Diem's silver fire explosion can melt metal. Do you think that's how she's going to free all the Gryverns? Because I think that's how she's going to free all the Gryverns.
Or even with like the same kind of foraging magic where we've been talking about how she can repel and make magic bend to her will and make barriers go down. I wonder if she will ultimately be able to tap into that magic and somehow, some way free the Gryverns.
Oh, it might be both, honestly, because the golden chains around their neck are also magically imbued to make them like attached to the realm.
Oh, I didn't think it was the object. I thought it was just part of
I thought it was
everything. I just thought that was a symbol of their chains.
Oh. Either way, off with the chains. Last but not least, we get a moment of Diem outright using Thanos magic when she goes to her steed for the day, which is a gray horse that has quite the temperament. Diem talks to the horse. She even sends calming energy her way. Quote, she, the horse, looked me over cagedly, her apprehension so intense I could almost feel it in the same way I could feel Sarai's emotions across our bond. All right, friends, it is time to enter the Sophos Library, where each episode, Lexi walks us through a world-building topic to help us deepen our understanding of the world and its magic.
Today's Sophos Library topic is godhood. As always, let's kick it off with what godhood is. Godhood is the source of the Descendants' magic within themselves, and it's kind of like a living thing inside of them. Although the Kindred are considered gods on Amarian, they had their own deities back on their home world. And when they came to Amarian, they brought a piece of that divine power with them. That is the origin of the godhood. Just like the kindred blood flows through every descendant, their godhood inside them originated from their kindred too. So like Alik says, the godhood that lived within, Mother Lumnos, it also lives within Diem. The descendants' godhood hate being trapped in a physical body. And when the godhood is leashed for too long without release, it gets angry. The longer it's held in, the angrier it gets. This is why for most descended, even a few days without a release of magic can be dangerous, which is why Diem being able to suppress her magic for years, for a whole decade, it is astounding. But we learn that's because of the flame root. The godhood's emotions can be felt by its descendant, and they can feel consumed by the godhood's urge to fight or recognize its excitement around a certain prince, etc. Descendant who are new to their magic are often overcome with anger because they don't yet know how to soothe their godhood. I can't even imagine how confusing it must be during puberty and your magic manifests while you're trying to figure out, your own shit that you do as a preteen when you have to deal with that too. Oh my gosh, it's just that puberty overload there. But it is possible to start training before a descendant's magic manifests, like Luther does with Lily. I'm kind of shocked this isn't the normal descendant protocol, but anyway. If a descendant does not use their power for a while and they let the godhood's anger build, it can feel cathartic once they finally release it. Diem compares the feeling to opening a pressure valve for her anger, leaving her mind clear, emotions drained, heartbeat steady, skin cool and refreshed, and the voice silent. So, how does godhood work? Since the godhood feeds off emotions, it manifests for the first time, like I said, during puberty, usually when a descendant is extremely angry or threatened. At first, a descendant must use those strong emotions to channel their power and be able to wield their magic, since learning to summon it while calm will come with time and lots of practice. The downside to the godhood feeding off a descendant's emotions is if, for whatever reason, a descendant can't or won't feel any emotions, it's a struggle to use their magic since they can't connect with their godhood. I think we've only seen this happen with Diem, though, when she's trying to learn how to use her power to begin with, so this is a bit of an assumption on our part, based on what Taryn and Elise have told her. Like I said, in some ways the godhood is its own living thing, thing, and it can chant things like fight, kill, destroy. Almost like a primal instinct is there to protect its person. Speaking of instinct, the use of their godhood typically becomes second nature for the Descended because they become familiarized with it and how to channel their magic as they grow into their power and sharpen their skills. But we've also seen the example of Diem, who is half Descended and she's trying to push down her Descended identity. And therefore, she's not accepting that her godhood is part of her and she has to embrace herself in order to fully connect with it and let her magic out. We also know that a Descended's magic will not hurt those they love, which is why Luther is not hurt by any of Diem's magic explosions. He's able to drop his shields and nothing bad happens no matter how destructive Diem is being with her magic. We do also know, though, you technically can hurt a loved one, but you have to literally convince your godhood in order to do it. And it's a little bit easier if your loved one, like Taryn, is kind of already pissing you off. The most powerful of the Descended are also able to sense each other's magic. In Lumnos, there's only a handful of other Descended that might feel the strength of Diem's magic. Along with this, some godhoods call to each other. They like each other. They interact and play with each other, or they don't like each other. We see this a lot with Diem and Luther, and I'm assuming it might have to do with the powerful godhoods they each have, and they're seeking out other powerful godhoods, and also it's them really literally feeding off the emotions and the wants and needs of who their Descended is there. And that is the summary of what we know about godhoods.
Let us close out this episode with skipping around the apple orchard and discussing our favorite moments from this stretch of chapters. First off, Taryn making fun of Diem being Delulu. After she admits she shielded against a Descended, who we know was Rhon, and who we know she actually didn't shield against him last book, he says, quote, "And that didn't tip you off that you were Descended? How deeply in denial were you?" To which Luther says, quote, "You have no idea." When Diem gets into the arena, she is fairly overwhelmed of the scene of thousands of people looking down on her at the fighting pits, and Luther decides that this is the time for the distraction. He tells her a secret. Lily turned down the offer to marry Roderick Burnham, and then Teller kissed her. I want this bonus scene so bad from Teller or Lily's point of view. I don't care. Oh my God, it's the perfect distraction, Luther. Well done. Last but not least, I love how Penn writes Diem and Teller's dialogue. It's so brother and sister coded, because especially when they're having their back and forth about you kiss Luther, you kiss Lily. And especially when Diem argues back with, Luther kissed me. And Teller's like, are you sure didn't push him away? It's such a funny sibling moment in the midst of such intensity around us. It's masterful writing.
All right, friends, there you have it. Oh my gosh, this episode was so much fun. We have been waiting to talk about the challenging. Thank you so much for listening to episode 6 of our Glow of the Everflame deep dive. Like Nicole mentioned at the top of the episode, this Thursday, July 17th, we've got a bonus episode all about the joys of reading and this wonderful community with the amazing Jess of the Lost Books of Jess.
Next Monday, we are wrapping up our Glow of the Everflame coverage. Wow! With episode 7, where we are talking all about chapters 44 through 45 and the epilogue, plus Luther and Diem's bonus POV chapters, which you can get in the link in the show notes.
Yes, they are on Penn's website. They are not the bonus chapters that you get with the hardcover.
Yes, correct.
We would love to give the biggest warm welcome to our newest Crowns Council member.
Welcome, Katie R. We appreciate you so much for joining and supporting the show. Thank you.
And if you're like, hey, I want my name shouted out on the podcast and to be shouted with all the love and attention too, join our fan club at fantasyfangirls.com/fan club. Link is also in the show notes.
Thank you, as always, to our top Sopo scholar, aka our content researcher, Brooke. My God, you are saving our lives this week. We love you. And of course, as always, our executive producer, aka our sanity manager, Hayden.
We are very active on social media with weekly trivia and lots of positivity and community uplifting, especially with positive pages these next few weeks. So please be sure to follow us and join in on all the positivity. We are really wanting to just make a ripple effect across this community. We are on Instagram and / or TikTok at Fantasy Fangirls Pod. And if you're watching this on YouTube or want to watch on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button to keep following along.
And while you're hitting buttons, don't forget to hit that 5-star rating and review button. It is one of the best things that you can do for any podcast you listen to rate it, to write a little love note in the review section. It's like giving your favorite podcasters a big hug. And last but not least, share this episode with your fellow Everflame friends. If you know your friend on their first read or their first reread did not catch the Godstone Blade reference, this is a perfect episode to send their way.
All right, we will see you this Thursday again, and then again next Monday, and, every other Monday besides that. All right, bye, everybody.
Bye!